In a world shrouded in yellow dust and plagued by monstrous demons, Maru, an ordinary young man, discovers an incredible power within himself. After an unexpected encounter with a demon, he gains the extraordinary ability to devour monsters and absorb their abilities. Maru transforms from a struggling underdog into the devil itself. As he faces relentless demonic forces head-on, his newfound powers grow stronger with each monster he conquers. So, our story begins with the land which was covered in a strange golden dust. A group of young people set out for a picnic. Unaware of the danger, they entered a restricted area marked as unsafe. Suddenly, gold dust appeared, an ominous force that began taking lives, one after another. Without any special powers, there was no chance of survival. The last survivor stood frozen, looking at the lifeless bodies of his friends. Fear consumed him, leaving him trembling. In front of him emerged a giant black shadow, holding a blood-covered sword. Shaking with terror, he stammered, "Save me!" But the shadow didn't stop. It grabbed his leg and dragged him away. His desperate screams echoed, his nails scraping the ground as he tried to resist. A long trail of blood marked his struggle, but he couldn't escape his dreadful fate. Later, a group of people wearing yellow uniforms arrived at the scene. They surveyed the aftermath in shock. One of them shook his head and sighed. Why would they ignore the warnings and come here? A short-haired girl added with frustration, "Another victim. Let's report it." Meanwhile, a long-haired girl studied the ground closely. "This was caused by something incredibly strong," she said firmly. Suddenly, yellow dust appeared in the air. Without hesitation, she pulled out a dagger, cutting her hand to release blood. A strange energy surrounded her injured arm, and it became a sword as she prepared to face the threat. A voice shouted, "Chief Kong, it is coming!" In the distance, a dark shadow approached, growing larger with every step. The long-mailed girl stood her ground, ready for the confrontation. In Seoul City, on the 9th floor of a tall building, job applicants waited nervously for their turn. Among them was Maru, a 29-year-old man struggling with anxiety. In the bathroom, he paced back and forth, muttering, "I can't do this. I'm so nervous." He splashed water on his face, but it didn't help. Outside, a bird chirped on a branch, and Maru felt like it was mocking him. Frustrated, he sighed and tried to steady himself. Back in the waiting room, a news report aired about campers who had mysteriously gone missing in Ganghwa district. Maru ignored it, focusing instead on his interview. For 5 years, he had tried and failed to pass the civil service exam. This was his 5th attempt, and he was determined to succeed. When the secretary called his name, Maru, contestant number 35, he stood up abruptly, startling those around him, and nervously walked into the interview room. A stern-looking interviewer greeted him and asked, "Why did you apply for this job?" Maru answered, "To serve society as a civil servant," though deep inside he thought about the stability and steady income the job would provide. The interviewer asked, "What would you do if your superior was being unfair?" Maru replied, "I'd address the problem directly and help find a solution." But in his mind, he thought, it's better to stay quiet and avoid trouble. When asked about his relationships, Maru nervously shared awkward details about his past, leaving the interviewer puzzled. Finally, the interviewer asked, "What's the hardest thing you've faced, and how did you deal with it?" Maru froze as memories of a terrifying childhood event surfaced. He remembered a demon with countless staring eyes, a creature that had killed many people. Overwhelmed by fear, Maru collapsed. The interviewer rushed to help, shaking him and calling his name, but Maru couldn't respond. His 5th attempt at the civil service exam had ended in failure. The scene shifts to the Gu-won boarding house, a small, cheap hostel often used by students. Inside one of the rooms, Maru, the male lead, is lying face down on his pillow, crying in frustration. "I probably failed the interview," he mutters. "How am I supposed to live in this society? No friends, no job, no girlfriend. Haha, what a joke." Suddenly, there's a loud banging on the door. Startled, Maru jumps up and rushes to open it. Standing there is his mother, a strong, rough, and muscular woman. She raises her voice. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" Maru, scared and confused, stammers, "What's wrong, Mom? What should I do if you don't leave now?" Ignoring his panic, she thrusts a bag of food into his hands. "I came to bring you food," she says. "We're out of groceries at home, so I'm leaving now." Hearing the word food, Maru's eyes light up. "Mom, is it meat?" he asks eagerly, but his excitement is crushed when she replies, "No, it's just kimchi and beans. There's no meat." Disappointed, Maru sighs. "Well, I guess my stomach will have to make do." As she looks around the room, her expression turns to disgust. The place is a mess. Trash everywhere, with empty noodle cups, beer cans, and soda bottles scattered all over. She starts cleaning up, muttering, "Oh my son, how can you live like this? Your room looks like a garbage dump." Maru protests weakly, "Mom, just leave it for now, I'll clean it later." But she ignores him and suddenly asks, "How did the interview go?" Embarrassed, Maru lowers his head, avoiding her gaze. He thinks to himself, "Don't tell her I vomited in front of the interviewer. Don't say it." His silence says it all. His mother sighs, understanding the outcome. Without warning, she raises her rough hand and slaps him on the butt. "Next time, do better. Don't get discouraged. Be strong," she scolds. Maru yelps in pain but doesn't resist. Afterward, she places an envelope in front of him. "Here's some pocket money," she says. "Take it." Overwhelmed with shame, Maru's eyes fill with tears. He tries to refuse, saying, "I don't need it, Mom. I'll work part-time and earn my own money." But his mother, indignant, flexes her muscles, causing her shirt to tear slightly. "Take it for your dignity," she yells. Terrified, Maru quickly grabs the envelope. Yes, thank you, Mom," he says. As she prepares to leave, she pauses thoughtfully and says, "Maru, I went to a fortune teller. They said your failure isn't because of ADHD or panic disorder. It's because of your father." Maru looks confused. "What do you mean?" he asks. She explains, "Your father, who disappeared 20 years ago, died on a mountain we used to visit. His restless soul is blocking your career path. The fortune teller said you need to go to that mountain, pour wine, and soothe his spirit. Only then will you succeed." The scene changes to a port. The air is fresh and cool as Maru arrives after a long trip. Stretching his arms, he sighs, "How many years has it been since I came here? I really didn't want to return to this place." Looking at the mountain ahead, he remembers his mother's instructions. She had told him to pour wine and pray to his father's spirit, to lift the curse on his career. Determined, Maru begins climbing the mountain. Halfway up, he spots an old house. "Finally," he exclaims, rushing toward it. Inside, the house is empty and abandoned. Dust covers everything, and it's clear no one has been here for years. As Maru steps inside, memories of his childhood flood back. He imagines himself as a boy, running into the house and calling out, "Dad, I'm hungry!" But the vision fades, leaving him alone in the empty room. Shaking off the memories, Maru takes out a bottle of wine from his bag. He pours it into a cup and splashes it around, muttering, "Dad, I hope you're living well wherever you are. Please let me get a job for Mom, who raised me all alone." Suddenly, a strange golden dust appears behind him. Maru notices it and mutters, "What's this? Gold dust? Or something blown down from the mountain?" But a sense of dread washes over him. Something bad is about to happen, he thinks, and starts running. As he runs, he hears a soft voice behind him, repeating his words, "Safety first." Confused, Maru glances back and sees the golden dust growing thicker. From it emerges a black shadow, followed by a demon with a round belly and a bamboo stick. The demon grins and repeats, "Safety first." Maru rubs his eyes, thinking it's a hallucination, but the demon moves closer, its presence terrifying. Panicking, Maru tries to run, but the demon strikes him with the bamboo stick, piercing his stomach. Blood splatters as Maru collapses in pain. Clutching his stomach, Maru thinks, "Am I really going to die like this? After all my struggles, this is how it ends?" But then, he remembers his mother's love and determination. Gritting his teeth, he forces himself to stand. "I can't die here," he says. The demon, grinning wickedly, opens its giant mouth, ready to devour him, but something inside Maru snaps. An evil power awakens within him, and he bites back, attacking the demon. Blood sprays everywhere as Maru devours the demon, his hidden strength unleashed. As he collapses, Maru sees visions of countless corpses in a ghostly world where only the strong survive. In his dreamlike state, he wonders, "Am I dead? Why does my mouth taste so strange?" Maru's eyelids fluttered open, his vision hazy and his head spinning. Slowly, the world around him came into focus, and before him were two unfamiliar faces. They stared at him intently, their expressions a mix of surprise and unease. Panic gripped Maru as he sat up suddenly, his hands clutching his chest. "Am I alive or dead?" he murmured. Glancing around, he asked, "Where are the monsters? What happened to the sandstorm?" The man in front of him stiffened, clearly startled by Maru's words. His voice was sharp as he stepped closer, urgently demanding, "What did you just say? Tell me again, what did you see?" Maru hesitated, his mind racing as he tried to piece together the fragments of his memory. Slowly he recalled, "There was a sandstorm. It came out of nowhere. Then, monsters. They attacked me. One of them stabbed me in the stomach. I thought I was gonna die." The two strangers exchanged uneasy glances, their voices dropping to a whisper as they moved a few steps away. "Did you hear the alarm yesterday?" the man murmured to his companion. "There was this strange, ghostly noise, and then it stopped. I thought it was just a system glitch." The woman, skeptical, shook her head. "Even if he has demon blood, it's impossible for him to use its power right away. Something doesn't add up here. The man nodded thoughtfully before turning back to Hanmaru. Do you remember anything else about yesterday? Still disoriented, Maru instinctively reached for his pocket, pulling out his phone. His eyes widened in shock as he saw the time. It's 1:30, he exclaimed. Have I been unconscious for a whole day? He clutched his head, his voice trembling. I don't understand. I was attacked by monsters, and now this? The strangers exchanged another glance, their expressions unreadable. If he survived a demon attack, he must have some kind of power, the woman muttered. But does he even realize what's happened to him? The man countered. He placed a hand on Maru's shoulder and offered a small, reassuring smile. You've shown up at the perfect time. We're recruiting new participants. Come with us. It'll all make sense soon. But first, let's get you some proper clothes. Those are completely shredded. Still confused, Maru followed them. They led him into a bustling city that seemed unlike anything he'd ever seen. Banners were draped across the streets proclaiming orientation for new employees, special government servants. Maru's confusion only deepened as he looked around. People moved with purpose, their expressions solemn and focused. What the heck is going on? Maru thought to himself, his eyes darting around nervously. Why does everyone here look so strange? Before he could voice his concerns, a woman stepped onto a podium in the center of the crowd. She exuded authority, her presence commanding immediate attention. Welcome everyone, she announced, her voice calm yet firm. I am Inwang, Director of Headquarters in Seoul. Congratulations to all of you on joining the Ministry of Environment. Maru's hand shot up. Sorry, there must be some mistake, he called out hesitantly. I didn't apply for this. Yoongun's gaze was icy as she replied, There is no mistake. You were specially selected to join our ranks. Congratulations on your appointment. Maru was stunned into silence as she continued. As special government officials, your primary duty is to protect human lives. The details of our work are confidential. You are not to discuss this with your family, your friends, or anyone else. Violating these principles will result in severe punishment. Maru's mind raced. Protect human lives? Confidentiality? What is this, some kind of secret organization? Yuang-un's next words shocked him even more. All of you here have gained demonic powers. When demon blood mixes with human bodies, there is a rare chance that it creates remarkable abilities. Each of you has been chosen for the potential you now possess. She gestured to a tall man in the crowd. Sun Wu, for example, has inherited the power of a seventh-order demon. Impressive. Sun Wu bowed slightly, a confident smile on his face. Yuangun then turned her gaze to Maru. And Maru, you have the power of a first-class demon. What is your ability? Maru froze. His mind was blank, and all he could do was scratch his head awkwardly. I don't know, he admitted, a sheepish smile on his face. His honesty drew laughter from Sun Wu, whose voice rang out across the room. Embarrassed and furious, Maru's face turned red. He's laughing at me? Maru thought angrily. He thinks I'm weak because I only have first-class power? Before he could dwell further on his frustration, a loud alarm blared through the facility. The recruits looked around in confusion and fear, but Yuang-un appeared almost excited. Perfect timing, she declared. A demon has appeared. Let's move out. The group was led deep into a dense forest, their breaths heavy as they hurried to keep up with Yuang-un's brisk pace. At last they reached a clearing where a massive demon lay motionless, a knife embedded in its skull. This is a level 1 demon, Yuang-un explained, gesturing to the creature. It's the weakest of its kind and has been subdued by Captain Kang. However, it's perfect for training. Now, show me what you can do. Hanmaru's chest tightened as panic set in. Fight? Is she insane? He muttered. His breathing grew ragged and his heart pounded as he tried to process the situation. How am I supposed to fight this thing? I don't even know what's happening to me. His chest ached, and a strange hunger began to consume him. The sensation was overwhelming, and he clutched at his chest, his vision blurring. In his mind, he saw a monstrous figure, a creature with sharp claws and ferocious eyes, slowly approaching him. The vision was vivid and terrifying. The creature grinned wickedly, its teeth gleaming as it reached out toward him. Maru's body trembled uncontrollably, and he felt drool drip from the corner of his mouth. Eat! I need to eat! Suddenly, someone poked him, catching his attention. Zanu asked if he was laughing because he was scared. In response, he said no and explained that he was just a bit hungry. Zanu thought about what he had said and found him pathetic. He stated that they were all worthless. Meanwhile, Maru wondered what that meant, as he was very hungry. Furthermore, young Yun called for everyone's attention. Before they tried to use their abilities, she explained the basics. She stated that the golden dust around them was produced by demons, and that the stronger the the demon, the denser the dust. But that's not all, she added as she brought out a knife and sliced her palm. This action frightened the recruits and made them feel uneasy. Moreover, she explained that when they were in the dust, their wounds would heal. However, if they received a fatal wound, they could really die, so she urged them to be careful. She further explained that they could only use their powers when they were within the dust emitted by a demon. Once the dust disappeared, they would become just like ordinary people. Meanwhile, Xanu wondered how long she would continue with such useless information in front of the demon. He thought that what was truly important was knowing how to activate their powers, so he began to wonder what he could do. Consequently, he bit his lip, causing it to bleed, and the golden dust seeped into the wound. As the dust entered his bloodstream, his heart started to beat like crazy, and he felt a surge of power flowing through his veins. He realized that it worked. If he wounded himself and let the golden dust enter his bloodstream, his power would activate. Without hesitation, he put on gloves and broke his thumb to trigger his ability. However, the demon suddenly awakened, easily alarming Captain Kang, who quickly told everyone to be careful. The golden dust emanating from the demon was becoming stronger, looming over them. As it emerged, it screamed in terror and thumped the ground, causing a tremendous force that the recruits felt intensely. Meanwhile, Captain Kang was about to intervene, but Young Yun stopped her, telling her to wait and not to interfere. Captain Kang argued that it was too much for the newbies, but Young Yun reasoned that if they couldn't even handle a monster at that level, they would simply die in the field. Suddenly, a smell caught the demon's attention. It was drawn to Hanmaru. Frightened, Hanmaru asked why it was looking at him. In response, the demon released a weapon from its hand and attacked Hanmaru, striking his shoulder. Captain Kang saw this and felt uneasy. Meanwhile, Hanmaru screamed in pain as he fell to the ground. He clutched his injured shoulder, trembling. Trying to stand up, he wondered why all of this was happening so suddenly. The monster leapt toward him and confronted him. Hanmaru stared at the monster in fear, unsure of what to do as it continued to stare. Then the monster tried to reach out to him, but something else emerged from the ground. Two centipedes suddenly enveloped the monster, constricting its neck and making it hard to move. They had been summoned by a centipede demon ability user. Shortly thereafter, a woman leaped forward to help kill the demon. She attacked it quickly from behind. She was a tiger demon ability user. As the demon's head was severed, it screamed in pain. They thought they had defeated it and won. However, they were soon surprised when golden dust began to cover the demon. The dust regenerated the demon's flesh, and in an instant, its wounds healed. They could not believe that its injuries had already mended. Moreover, the demon gripped the centipede's body and pulled it, catching a man by surprise. As he was connected with the centipede, it forcefully swayed the demon, which in turn swayed the man and threw him toward the woman. Suddenly, the demon grabbed the man by the neck. The man trembled in pain and cried out that it hurt. To his surprise, the demon's mouth opened wide as it prepared to devour him, and he begged to be saved. Suddenly, the demon's neck snapped, and it released its grip on the man. Xanu then stated to the demon that if it thought he would let it go that far, it was mistaken. Meanwhile, the demon's anger flared, and its attention shifted to Xanu, planning to attack him. But Xanu intervened, removing his hands and grabbing his own wrist. He twisted it, commanding the demon to die instantly. Its head broke away from its body, and finally the demon fell to the ground. Xanu stepped on it and realized it was dead. Had he cut its throat to stop it from emitting dust? Moreover, he thought it was a shame, as it had been a good chance to try different things. Suddenly, Captain Kang called his attention. She claimed that he had broken her knife to awaken the demon and accused him of putting others at risk. All of a sudden, he denied it and asked if she had any proof that he broke the knife. She then held his hand and asked if she should try breaking his finger again to see if her sword would break. Suddenly, Young Yun started clapping and complimented him, saying that for a first-timer he had handled it well. But she then noticed something. She asked if someone had gone missing. Maru was running hastily, trying to escape from the area. He could not believe that he had suddenly become a special civil servant and was immediately ordered to eliminate the demon, an order he couldn't follow. Believing that running was the only way to live, he thought better of staying. Suddenly, he halted and looked up, wondering what was happening. On the other hand, Young Yun thought that Hanmaru was not qualified to be a special civil servant. Meanwhile, Officer Kang recalled the earlier events and wondered if it had only been her imagination that the monster had targeted the newbie. Then Young Yun asked Officer Kang to find the newbie. Captain Kang then remarked, "But isn't it strange?" She noted that although the monster was dead, the golden dust still remained, prompting Young Yun to ponder the mystery further. Meanwhile, Hanmaru wondered why there was a gate here. He saw that it was emitting a large amount of golden dust. To his surprise, a monster suddenly emerged from the gate. He quickly hid behind some bushes and covered his mouth. He thought that now that he had finally escaped, why must he face yet another threat? Shortly, he looked back at the gate, wondering if it had vanished. He assumed it had left, but little did he know that a demon was already waiting for him. Suddenly, another individual from the Specialized Civil Service contacted them. She reached out to Officer Kang Chana, and Captain Kang immediately inquired about the situation. Yisak informed them that the officers had called. Young Yun was surprised to learn that demon never appeared in the same area at the same time. Meanwhile, Captain Kang asked where it had appeared. Maru, now fleeing to the restricted area, swiftly pulled himself along and leaped over a fence. He ran quickly as he escaped from the demon, shouting for help and pleading to be saved. Suddenly, he tripped on a rock and fell to the ground. Quickly, he stood up, brushing his head off. Finally, he spotted a house nearby. He ran, thinking he could hide there, and quickly went inside. His heart thumped as he wondered what that sound was. He peered through the door, convinced that there was no way the threat had followed him, but to his horror, he saw that it had indeed followed him. Realizing he was doomed, Maru noted that the demon was a level 3 creature with strange objects floating over its head. He wondered about the leaf-like thing on its head and how it had appeared. Suddenly, he saw someone arrive, a grandmother. She asked who was there and wondered why there was a golden fog in the middle of the day, as she could hardly see. The grandmother couldn't see the demon in front of her. The demon growled slightly as it noticed the grandmother, while Maru thought that she was in danger and that he had to help her. But since he had no power at that moment, he wondered what he could do. He recalled what young Yoon had said. Those who had received the powers of demon could heal in the dust, but she had warned that a fatal wound could still kill them. Concluding that he might die, he prioritized his own safety and realized he had to survive. Meanwhile, the grandmother asked, "Who is there? Is it Miss Kim?" Upon hearing this, the demon repeated, "Miss Kim." The grandmother told it to stop mimicking her, but as she opened her eyes, she saw the demon and sat in fear, wondering what it was. The demon then repeated, "Miss Kim" again. It pointed its finger, and the leaf-like object on its head suddenly pointed toward the grandmother. It flicked its finger, and the strange appendage moved, causing blood to splash everywhere. Surprisingly, the grandmother felt nothing. Slowly, she opened her eyes and saw a man in front of her shielding her. Maru asked if she was all right, and although she replied that she was fine, to her astonishment, Maru's body fell onto her. He then told the grandmother to run away quickly. Moreover, Maru wondered, why do I only have a level 1 Rakshasa ability? It's as worthless as my resume. He muttered that in the end he would die because he didn't have real powers and couldn't even save the grandmother. His eyes grew blurry as he looked at her in concern. Pleading, Maru begged, "Please, I'm begging you, if anyone could just come," as he cried out for help. Suddenly, golden dust began to seep into his wound. His body started to change, veins emerging visibly. Shortly, his eyes glowed and his teeth sharpened. Without hesitation, he charged toward the demon. Meanwhile, Captain Kang was already on her way to the demon when she suddenly heard a loud noise that made her stop running. She quickly went to the area where the sound had come from and was surprised to see the newbie attacking the demon. Astonished, she wondered what the newbie was doing. Suddenly, the demon grabbed Maru's head and forcefully pushed him, sending him flying into a wall. Despite the impact, Maru remained conscious and felt a strong will within him. Meanwhile, the demon did something strange. It clutched the wound that Maru had inflicted on itself. Upon seeing this, Captain Kang concluded that the demon was unable to regenerate in the area where the newbie had bitten it. Although she wondered why, she declared that this was not the time to worry about that detail. She then charged at the demon, aiming to seize the object on its head. As she grabbed it forcefully, her hand was wounded, and as a result, she transformed into her ability as the Iron Rakshasa ability user. The demon noticed her presence, growing even angrier, so it hurled its pointy appendage toward her. But Captain Kang immediately turned around, her eyes meeting the objects hurled at her. She swiftly deflected them with her weapon, sending the objects back toward the demon, which instantly covered its face. Seizing the opportunity, Captain Kang struck the demon's body. The demon was immobilized, and shortly after, its head was sliced in half. Finally, the demon perished and was successfully defeated by Captain Kang. Slowly, its body began to vanish like ash. Captain Kang then rushed to the grandmother, asking if she was all right and whether she was regaining her senses. Shortly, the grandmother sat up and asked what had just happened. Captain Kang explained that it was nothing more than a wild boar that had appeared and then run away. Fortunately, Kang was relieved that ordinary people tend to forget about demons once the golden dust clears, and she she reassured the grandmother not to worry, as the public servants would handle the aftermath. The grandmother went inside, and Captain Kang told her to take care before turning her attention to Han Maru. She walked over to him, wondering what was wrong with the newbie. Noticing that his severed arms had already regrown, she asked if he was really just a level 1 Rakshasa ability user. Han Maru felt frustrated as he woke up, realizing that they were asking him to begin work the following day. Suddenly, he remembered the moment he had encountered a Rakshasa demon and thought he did not want to go. He assured himself that he definitely wasn't going. However, desperate for a job, he began to consider it. Ultimately, he decided to simply go back to sleep. Han Maru had been sleeping for a while when he suddenly fell into a deep sleep and began dreaming. In his dream, the demons were again engaged in battle, and he heard voices urging him to return. Shortly after, he awoke from his dream, surprised, and then sat up, trying to breathe normally. He looked at his hand, wondering what it was, as it had haunted him for so long. When he realized it was already morning, he opened the window and looked outside. To his surprise, he saw a fire on Shingai Mountain, making him wonder if the blaze would spread this far. The demons were the cause of the fire on the mountain. It was a fire demon spreading a surge of flames. The special civil servants were on the scene to take control of the situation. The woman in charge was a water Rakshasa with the ability to control water. As water fell onto the fire demon, it detested the effect. Meanwhile, another individual assisting, an ice Rakshasa with the ability to control ice, froze the demon's feet to the ground. They immobilized it and froze its entire body. The water ability user called the team leader and mentioned that Rakshasas were not supposed to appear at night, but the team leader instructed her to focus on preventing the wildfire damage for now. As the fire demon's body began heating up and slowly melting the ice, the team leader immediately utilized his weapon. He told her that he would handle this one without hesitation and charged at the monster. Suddenly, something strange struck the monster. A black entity with eyes ordered the demon to bring it to him. This instantly made the fire demon release a surge of power and break free from the ice. Even as the demon broke free, it charged at the team leader, but it punched him. He instinctively defended himself but was pushed away by the strong force, causing him to hit a tree. His eyes and arms were burned by the fire, so his companion rushed to his aid. Suddenly, the demon's head began to emit lava, then released it, creating a surge of molten lava. The team leader wondered why he felt frightened and why he was growing stronger. The situation soon reached the SOOU headquarters, where panic set in as multiple areas went on red alert. Young Yun came and asked about the current status. To their surprise, they were being attacked concurrently on 20 mountains nationwide, and the Rakshas's appearance pattern had completely changed. Young Yun began to think that it had all started happening a week ago during the Pusan, so she wondered why there was suddenly an urgent call from the Pusan branch. Young Yun picked up the call and asked what the matter was. The man on the other end, identifying himself as the Busan director B. Mick, informed her that there was a situation on Junyang Mountain in Busan. He explained that the portal had remained open for 3 days straight, which surprised her. He said that they killed and killed, but the creatures kept crawling out, and the Junjiang Mountain team was completely exhausted. Suddenly, another demon emerged from the gate. Meanwhile, Young Yun asked why the portal had not closed and if they had identified the cause. He replied that the Rakshasas had just kept babbling nonsense. As the monster emerged from the gate, it kept talking. According to their translation, Rakshasa user and Rakshasa interpretation, it was saying, "Bring him to me." So Young Yun asked, "Bring who?" The demon finally exited the gate and leaped forward toward the teen. It leaped high up and then shortly descended to the ground. Byamazik informed her that what they did not know was that he needed to be there. Meanwhile, the demon loomed over the special civil servant team. Young Yun ended the call, filled with curiosity and unease about whom the demons desired. On the other hand, a helicopter was on its way to help. A man picked up the call and asked what was the matter. He was told that the situation on Junjiang Mountain was dire, but he informed them that he was almost there and would call again once the problem was solved. Suddenly, he leaped at the helicopter. He fell through the air and was about to descend when a bright light emanated from him. His speed increased as he neared the golden dust. As he entered it, he inhaled the dust, and his appearance changed. At that moment, he utilized his skill spatial inversion and continued descending from the sky until he landed on the roof of the gate. The Busan team noticed his presence and began to wonder. They looked around, asking who he was as he appeared out of nowhere, and warned that it was dangerous there. Meanwhile, the demon suddenly noticed him and caught its attention. It leaped toward a woman. woman. The woman immediately realized the demon was about to charge and quickly evaded it. Then, turning around, she saw, to her surprise, that the demon was already poised to attack her. On the other hand, a man opened something resembling a rift. He widened it until the appearance was dark. The ability he used was the spatial tear, which also appeared behind the monster. Quickly, he put his hands into the spatial rift and pulled the monster out of the tear he created. In an instant, its head was in his hand, and as a result, the demon was instantly incapacitated. The Busan team was shocked by this sudden turn of events. Shortly afterward, the man descended from the roof and told them that they had worked hard. He said he would handle it from there and that they should take a break. The woman then quickly asked the team leader, "Who's that guy?" He replied that he was the first Rakshasa ability user and the founder of the Special Yellow Dust Task Force. Before beginning his work, the man stretched his body, steadied himself, and thought that he would wrap this up quickly. He was known as the strongest Rakshasa ability user at the moment, Director Jang Il-do. Moreover, his ability spread throughout the area. It enveloped the rocks surrounding the gate. The dark violet power spread across the entire mountain until it reached the top and even enveloped the moon. The Busan team glanced upward, observing something peculiar in the sky. They pondered the nature of these dark fissures. The team leader remarked that it was his first time seeing them up close, having only heard of someone possessing spatial abilities, and questioned why such a powerful ability was significant. Jang then opened a black rift, revealing golden dust within. On the blazing mountain, the magma beast had grown even more massive, and the ice water dew had nearly lost its effect. The girl had collapsed, while the guy desperately urged her to get up. If she didn't, they were both doomed. The lava monster lunged forward again, and the ice user barely managed to summon a barrier, but it started shattering under the beast's force. He kept defending himself, but the relentless attacks wore him down until his shield broke completely, sending him hurtling through the air. As he lay gasping on the ground, he knew this was it. His end was near. But just then, a rift split open behind the monster. Jang grabbed the creature's head and wrenched it through, flinging the entire beast away. The ensuing explosion scattered crows into the sky. Jang declared that it was time to wipe out every last monster. Activating every rift unit across Ganghwa province, he set his plan into motion. Elsewhere, a boy was being crushed under the weight of a demon that spoke in an unknown tongue before thrusting a blade into his chest. But before it could finish him, a rift tore open behind the creature, swallowing it whole. This phenomenon repeated itself across the attacked mountains. The monsters vanished one by one, dragged into a single, unknown location. The chaos had ceased, but now all the demons were concentrated in one place. A staff member noticed the danger signals disappearing, prompting the vice director to remark with quiet confidence that this only meant Jang had arrived. Jung's strategy had worked. Every demon was now in one place, but that also meant facing all of them at once. Jang, however, was unfazed. This was exactly what he wanted. As the creature shrieked and charged, he pointed at one and ripped open a spatial rift. Then, with elegant precision, he spun and slashed in all directions, cutting them down effortlessly. Severed heads flew through the air as the squad watched in stunned disbelief. This level of power was beyond anything they had witnessed before. Jang turned his focus to the massive magma beast and called for the translator. He demanded to know why the demons had become so agitated this week. The response came through: "Bring that person." Jang's expression darkened as he asked who this person was, but the creature merely echoed his question back. Seeing that no real answers were coming, Jang slammed the monster into the ground. If words wouldn't work, then he'd simply eliminate them until they stopped coming. Drenched in blood, he shifted his focus to the gate. Placing his hand on the ground, he created a spatial void beneath it, swallowing the entire area in one swift move. One of the squad members exhaled in relief, feeling reassured knowing that someone like Jang was on their side. With a single motion, he deactivated his power, making the gate vanish as if it had never existed. The following day at headquarters, Yu Young stormed into Jang's office, demanding an explanation about the portal. Jang, exhausted, casually revealed that it was inside his black void, having taken a massive effort to contain. Unimpressed, she told him to handle the situation as usual. Jang groaned. He wasn't an entire organization by himself. Turning on the TV, he assured her that he understood, but he had already collected the information she wanted. The screen displayed images of the new recruits. Curious, Yu Yang questioned his interest in them. He explained that he was searching for a reason. The reason why the demons weren't just invading, but seemed to be after him specifically. Amidst the heaps of monstrous corpses, a colossal woman's lifeless body lay still, a single, ever-watching green eye fixated on the scene, its eerie voice repeating the same command, "Bring him." Meanwhile, Maru was beginning his first day at work. His mother had been overjoyed when she heard he got a government job, though he couldn't share the details. Seeing her happiness made it impossible for him to refuse. Upon arrival, he was immediately greeted by a man in a Hawaiian shirt who bluntly asked why he had come back. The man scoffed, saying he didn't need a coward on his team. Maru, meanwhile, noticed only the strong scent of alcohol. Seon-woo soon arrived and wasted no time complaining, insisting he wanted to be transferred to the main city. The leader merely shrugged. He had no idea why a level 7 was sent here either. Something wasn't right. Regardless, they were both now part of Ganghwa's team. Maru couldn't help but wonder what his actual role was when there weren't any demons left to fight. The moment their leader opened a door, he saw people slaughtering zombies and dissecting creatures. But reality quickly snapped back. It was just an ordinary office. The man in the Hawaiian shirt introduced himself as Go Deok-man, the team leader. The girl with glasses was Ji Won-yoon, with 7 years of experience. Another lanky man, also with 7 years, was Kim Ibak. Then there was Yoseok, the TikToker, who had been around for only a year. Deok-man urged them to get along and pick any seat. Sweating nervously, Maru took a spot, wondering if everyone felt this anxious on their first day. He attempted a friendly greeting, but the man sitting across from him, Zanu, simply glared and told him to stop staring. Maru instantly deflated. Zanu, on the other hand, was frustrated that he had been assigned to this remote location. Leaderjurg for better conversation, Maru turned to Yoseok, who was casually browsing luxury brands on his phone. When he asked about their actual job, Yoseok nonchalantly explained that their unit dealt with golden dust. There were 13 divisions across Seoul, and those ranked level 7 or higher were assigned to special missions. Their island, however, was mostly for misfits or underachievers. Maru immediately related that explained why he was here, but something about this place still felt off. Yuk chimed in, mentioning that some competent people actually volunteered for this job. Just then, both of them turned their heads, and damn, that girl was training hard. Maru, feeling awkward, straightened up, but she stared directly at him. Yan advised her to head home after her shift at the station, but she simply sat down, stating that she had no reason to go home. Kang Chana silently observed everything, noting Maru's presence. Something was strange. She had woken up that morning with no memory of the previous day. Meanwhile, Maru was surprised to learn he would be receiving hazard pay. The salary was good, but the fact that hazard pay even existed meant his life was in constant danger. Then Yoseok added that it was 5 times the normal salary, which is around 100,000 USD a year. Maru's eyes widened. That was a lot of money. Yoseok, annoyed, told him to stop talking. He was busy shopping. Maru, meanwhile, was still trying to figure out what exactly he was supposed to do in this place. As time passed, he slowly got used to the environment. He never expected to land such an easy job with such a high salary. Then, stretching after a long day, Go Deok-man announced that work was over. Approaching the 2 newcomers, he asked if they had any issues or questions. Zanu just shook his head. Maru, however, had one lingering thought. Where did demons actually come from, and why did they exist? Deok-man simply shrugged. No one knew, and they don't care either. They just follow orders and hunt demons. Maru exhaled, realizing the terrifying truth. Humanity was doomed, yet nobody seemed to care. And yet, somehow, these people continued doing their jobs, no matter how bizarre their reality was. Then they decided to have welcome party for the newcomers. Back at headquarters, Young took the elevator down and found Jung standing before a golden capsule. He asked her what she thought. She glanced at some reports, noting that the monster appearances seemed to have stabilized, but Jung kept his eyes on the swirling golden mist, questioning what had triggered this surge of creatures. Young suggested that maybe they were getting closer to the day of reckoning, but Jung wasn't convinced. He was staring at a fallen angel, bound and suspended upside down, white-hailed and mysterious. Something wasn't adding up. For now, Jung wanted all the leaders to stay on high alert. If the rest of the organization found out about these details, it would cause absolute chaos. Meanwhile, Maru was with the others, asking what they had been talking about. They were grilling barbecue, explaining that this was exactly why they had to celebrate as much as possible. Uda mentioned that because of a certain prophecy, they made sure to enjoy life every day. Confused, Maru asked for an actual explanation. The leader finally answered. The prophecy foretold that in 1 year, demons would rain from the sky, countless portals would open across the world, and the earth would be drenched in blood. Maru found that terrifying, but Goodman told him to keep quiet quiet, this was a classified secret. Meanwhile, Yon encouraged everyone to drink until they threw up, while Yosok wanted to go home. Kangchana warned them to be careful since they had work tomorrow. Apparently, Zanu's biggest weakness was alcohol, and he was already passed out. Maru, however, kept telling everyone to stop drinking while wondering why no one seemed to be alarmed by this day of reckoning prophecy. Just then, a golden light shone above a mountain. A gate opened in the sky, pouring out golden dust. Countless hands emerged from within. The moment the first bald-headed monster appeared, everyone's phones blared with an emergency alert. Yu Young sighed, disappointed. Nighttime disasters were annoying. She just wanted some time to relax. Meanwhile, Kangchana stood up, saying she'd be back soon. Zanu immediately said he was going with her, but she refused and instead chose Maru. Maru wanted nothing to do with this. Yet here he was, forehead pressed against the car window, wondering how he ended up in this mess. Kang then reassured him that he didn't need to worry too much about the prophecy. Maru argued that it wasn't something to take lightly, but she confidently stated that the higher-ups were already making the necessary preparations. Many powerful individuals worked for the organization. Their job was simple: locate the demons and kill them. Maru was terrified, but he was also completely smitten by how cool she was. She then mentioned that he seemed to have a special ability, and she was curious to see what he could do. For the first time, someone actually expected something from him. But then she casually remarked, "I've never seen someone eat like you before." She wondered if he had some kind of gluttony ability. Maru had no idea what she was talking about. She explained that it literally looked like he had the power to eat demons. He hated the sound of that. But then the scene cut to a monster being impaled. Kang had easily pinned it down and turned to him. "You really gonna make me say it? Eat it." Beaming, she explained that his ability seemed to prevent regeneration, so she wanted to see it in action. It was time for him to take a bite. Maru hesitated, but with no choice, he tore off a piece of the monster's tentacle. Disgusting. He told himself to just think of it as eating octopus at a restaurant. He leaned in, teeth bared but barely nibbled. Kang scolded him. He needed to bite like he meant it. Maru sighed, said he understood, and reluctantly started chewing. The next day at the office, Maru was dying. His entire body ached. Zanu smirked, saying he heard that Maru threw up yesterday. What an idiot. Maru didn't even care. He just asked Zanu what he expected from him. Zanu scoffed. Someone like him should never have been sent here. They should have assigned someone actually useful. He should be grateful that Commander Kang even had the slightest interest in his ability. Then he walked off flat out, calling Maru useless trash. Maru was roasted. But to be fair, Zanu had a point. He needed to wake up and try harder. Just then the alarm rang. Kang turned to call his name, but Maru was already in the bathroom, hands on his face, trying to figure out how to get used to eating monsters. He had an ability, which was good, but his ability was eating monsters, which was not good. As he walked down the hallway, he suddenly ran into Kang and nearly had a heart attack. She raised an eyebrow and asked if he had been hiding in the bathroom. Maru said he heard the alarm, but he had food poisoning from biting that creature. Kang sighed, lowering her head. "You're really not suited for this job," she muttered. She explained that he didn't have to work for the government just because he had a special power. There was another option. He could sign a contract stating he wouldn't talk about this to anyone. Then he could live his life under constant surveillance for the rest of his days. Maru was shocked. He thought the alternative would be easier than that. But Kang added that this was still better than dying on the battlefield. People like him didn't last long. If he wasn't up for it, he needed to quit now. Kang leaned in close. "We don't need people who are useless." Damn. Roasted everywhere he went. Meanwhile, back at the office, Kang assumed Maru had given up. You'd think this was his motivation arc, but no. He was standing on a bridge, actually happy for once. Maybe he really wasn't cut out for this. Maybe living under surveillance was better than dying in battle. Poor guy had no idea he was the protagonist of this story. Escape was impossible. Right then, his phone rang. It was his mother. He answered, already thinking about quitting. "Hey, what are you up to?" She told him she was on a hiking trip to Inwang Mountain. Maru froze. He put a hand over his face and groaned. He had already told her to stop climbing mountains. But then the call quality suddenly worsened. His mother paused, confused, asking why there was so much golden dust in the air. His heart dropped. The call cut off. Oh, hell no. Now the motivation arc was kicking in. At Inwang Mountain, the security team had already been deployed to handle a reported demon sighting. The guards stood frozen, unsure of their next move. Then, one of them looked up and his breath hitched. A creature sat perched in a tree, casually chewing on a human arm. A crystal embedded in its forehead glistened as it curled its lips into a sinister smile. Meanwhile, Maru was dashing toward the mountain. The level 5 demon had torn through the entire security team, leaving nothing but mangled corpses in its wake. No one remained to stop the slaughter. But just then, a heavy-set woman, the regional leader, stepped in. Without hesitation, she activated her duplication ability, telling the few survivors to call for backup while she stalled the beast. One of them bolted toward the landline, the only communication method that worked here since cell phones were useless in this area. Back at headquarters, Yu Young received the emergency request. Without wasting a second, she took charge, issuing immediate deployment orders. The situation was critical. If that level 5 demon managed to descend the mountain, it would be a bloodbath. Time was running out. They had to move, now. Meanwhile, Maru had arrived at the foot of the mountain, but he wasn't the first to get there. He barely had time to process what was happening before he spotted himself, or at least, someone who looked exactly like him. No time to dwell on that. His priority was his mother. He ran to the hiking tour group, scanning the crowd in a frenzy, but she was nowhere in sight. Desperate, he approached a guide. "Let me through. My mom's in there." The guide blocked his path. "It's too dangerous. There are wild animals in the area." Wild animals, my ass. Maru knew the truth. It wasn't animals lurking in the mist, it was demons. While the guards focused on locking down the main entrance, Maru made his move. Instead of waiting, he began scaling the mountain from the opposite side. It was the fastest way up. With every step, his chest tightened. He could only pray his mother was still safe. Deep within the thick golden mist, a figure winced as she shifted her weight. Chad, Mom, had twisted her ankle. Yet without hesitation, she crouched down, let the injured woman climb onto her back, and kept moving. But then she stopped. Something stirred in the fog. "What was that?" she muttered. A hand suddenly reached for her. Maru burst onto the scene, his voice laced with panic. His mother turned in shock. "How the hell did you find me?" He barely managed a breathless answer. "Your social media post." Before she could question him further, another woman perked up. "Oh, so this is the son you were talking about. You must be so proud. Getting a government job is a huge achievement." Maru's mother beamed. "Yes, now all that's left is to find him a wife, though he's not exactly popular with girls." Maru groaned. "Can we focus, please?" But just as he spoke, an unsettling feeling crept up his spine. His instincts screamed at him. He whipped his head up and locked eyes with it. The demon. His breath hitched. His body locked up. Every time he saw one of these creatures, it happened. A full-blown panic attack. His vision blurred. His muscles refused to move. How the hell am I supposed to protect my mom like this? Then, movement. It's attacking. The injured woman turned to look at Maru. "Hey, that boy doesn't look so good." Before she could process it, Maru's mother screamed his name. The demon's attention snapped toward her. It lunged. Maru flung himself forward and tripped, tumbling down the slope like an absolute idiot. He barely had time to recover before the demon's jaws snapped shut, inches from his mother's throat. No, but then, out of nowhere, knives impaled the demon's back. It collapsed, shrieking in pain. Maru's eyes widened. Where the hell did those come from? His mother, still in shock, turned to him. "What's on your head?" Reaching up, Maru felt something foreign. Horns? No, blades. A memory surfaced. One of the demons he had fought before had possessed this exact ability. Then, a sensation crawled up his spine. Something shifted in his back. Another knife formed. Holy shit. Realization struck. His power wasn't just stopping regeneration. He could steal abilities. A slow smirk crept onto his lips. All right, let's see what this power can do. But something was off. The demon was already scrambling away. It's weaker than I expected. Why had the others struggled so much against a creature like this? Meanwhile, elsewhere on the mountain, two agents from headquarters arrived to find a lone, injured soldier slumped against a fence. Bloodied and shaking, the man barely managed to speak. "See to the demon, it was terrifying. Wiped out my whole team." One of the agents frowned. "That's hard to believe. The regional leader is a level 7 user?" His partner, a slick-haired man, leaned in. "What ability did it have?" The wounded soldier swallowed hard. "It had the mirror ability." Back at Maru's location, something shimmered on the demon's back. His stomach dropped. "Wait, it copied my attack?" Before he could react, crystals erupted from the monster's body, impaling him. His mind reeled. "That bastard copied me." The demon slowly advanced, its forehead gleaming like a mirror. "Shit, it's reflecting my movements." If he attacked, it would strike back with the exact same force. A pained gasp behind him. Maru spun around. His mother was clutching her knee, blood dripping down. His injuries didn't matter, but she had to be okay. Forcing a grin, he lifted his shirt to show her his wounds. "Don't worry, I'm fine." His mother blinked. No more hesitation. He turned to her. "Hide, I'll take care of this." She hesitated but saw the look in his eyes. Pure determination. He was a public servant, a protector, and he wasn't about to lose. Without another word, he launched himself at the demon, grabbed it by the waist, and hurled it off the mountain. He went down with it. His mother screamed as flocks of crows scattered into the sky. Maru landed hard, his body aching, but there was no time to rest. He forced himself up. The demon was regenerating. Then, another problem. The two agents who had arrived earlier finally saw the full picture. It wasn't one level 5 demon. It was many. A horde of monsters loomed ahead. One of the agents narrowed his eyes. "Why do they all look the same?" His bald companion muttered grimly. The regional leader had a duplication ability, which meant she had been copied. The slick-haired agent grinned. "Doesn't matter." He cracked his knuckles. "I'll just kill them all." With that, he slammed his fist into the ground, unleashing a shockwave that sent the creatures flying. His bald partner sighed. Idiot. But one thing was certain. The real threat? It was still below Maru. Maru realized with growing frustration that the damn creature was regenerating just as fast as he was. The real problem? He was starting to get exhausted. Then, out of nowhere, a voice spoke. "What's wrong, Maru?" His stomach dropped. That voice, it was his mother's, which actually came from Demon. "Don't do that!" Maru snapped, hurling knives at the creature. But his aim was off. Controlling someone else's ability wasn't as easy as it looked. Meanwhile, the monster calmly formed a crystal and launched it straight into his shoulder. The pain only pissed him off more. This time, he let loose an entire barrage of knives, one of which struck the monster's shoulder. "Got you!" Maru cheered, only for the creature to grunt, shake its body, and instantly regenerate. His heart sank. They had the same attack ability, but the monster's recovery speed was even worse than his. That meant it was actually weaker. Then, something clicked in his mind. A conversation with Kang Chana surfaced. "I have a feeling you never actually listened to what I say." Lying on the ground, bleeding out, Maru had muttered that maybe he just wasn't cut out for this. But back then, Kang had simply extended her hand and pulled him up. "You're just scared of getting hurt," she had told him. Inside the golden mist, wounds healed. So what if the pain was real? That was just part of it. If he wanted to survive, he had to eat those damn demons. She had crushed his hand as she spoke, and he had asked if there was a better way to fight. To kill a monster like this, you have to cut off its head and stop it from absorbing golden dust. Since he lacked an offensive ability, he could only play support. But on the flip side, his regeneration was the best. That meant he shouldn't be afraid to face monsters head-on. Back in the present, Maru grinned. If his ability was the best, then he had no reason to be scared. Besides, thanks to gluttony, he had more than enough strength to end this. The problem? He still couldn't aim properly. Landing a precise hit on the neck would be difficult. The monster kept taunting him, still using his mother's voice. "What's wrong, Maru?" That was it. If he couldn't aim, then there was only one solution. Maru threw another crystal. The demon dodged, only to look up and see him already mid-air, charging straight at it. The creature barely had time to react. It released golden mist, trying to block him, but he bit down on his knife to stop the attack. Then it grabbed him by the throat. "What's wrong, Maru?" the monster repeated, pressing him against a rock before slamming him onto the mountaintop. Maru gasped, struggling to breathe. He couldn't activate gluttony. He needed to bite this thing, but the demon wasn't close enough. Then it bit his neck first. He couldn't bite back, so he yanked a knife from his back and stabbed the creature's side. Blood poured from his wound. His vision blurred. Why? Why wasn't he healing? A chilling thought hit him. The monkey had copied his ability. Did that mean it could block his regeneration too? Looking at the pool of blood beneath him, Maru had no idea how much time he had left. If he failed here, what would happen? Another memory surfaced. Another conversation with Kang Chana. "How many times are you going to pass out?" she had sighed. He had explained it was a panic attack. His chest tightened, his mind went blank, and all he felt was the certainty of death. Her response: "That's exactly why you need to get over it. At this rate, the next time you think you're going to die, you actually will. You're the last line of defense for civilians. If you're weak, they die." In the present, his mother was wandering nearby, calling his name. Somehow, he was still alive. Gripping his bleeding neck, he looked absolutely wrecked. He picked up a crystal. The monkey copied him. So what? Kang's words echoed in his mind. Even if it did, he had to take this thing down with him. He bit his lip, furious. Then, he screamed and ran straight at the demon. The monster crouched, crouched, dodging, and stabbed him in the ribs. But Maru had already thrown a dagger straight up into the air. The creature frowned. "What's wrong, Maru?" Maru grabbed it and roared. Every single crystal he had thrown so far flew toward them. The monster froze. It got hit by all of them. Actually, they both did. But at least the last knife, the one he had thrown straight up, finally came down and cleanly severed the monster's head. Its limbs detached. Its body collapsed. Maru stumbled back, shaking before falling over. Maru finally successfully killed that overpowered copy demon. Back at hiking area, the agents watched as the monster disintegrated. Agent wondered if they had just killed the original. The bald one shook his head. No, someone else did, but the question is who did this? Meanwhile, back on the mountain, Maru's wounds slowly healed. But this time, he truly thought he had almost died. Then, he got up intending to find his mother, until his father's voice whispered behind him, "Eat." Maru froze. His father pointed at the monster's remains. "Go back and eat it." And finally, Maru understood. That crazy old man had known all along. This monster had a rare and powerful ability. If he ate it, he might gain another power. And then, he remembered Godman's prophecy. In 1 year, creatures will rain from the sky. Maru clenched his fists. If he wanted to be strong enough to protect his mother, then there was only one path forward. He stepped toward the corpse. And with that, he began his daily meal. Now fully confident, sharper than ever, he licked his lips and declared, "From this day forward, I'll eat any strong demon I encounter and become the strongest." Sometime later, his mother woke up in the hospital, confused but surprisingly calm. She asked if she had really passed out on the mountain, but didn't seem too worried about it, saying she didn't remember much. Maru was relieved. She should have remembered. The monster had been right in front of her. But maybe that was for the best. To change the subject, he showed her a news report about the events on the mountain and told her to stay out of dangerous situations from now on. But then she mentioned something unexpected. She had heard rumors about someone who looked like his father being seen on the mountain. That was why she had gone to check it out. Maru's mind started piecing things together. His father had also disappeared on a mountain. Could this all be connected to demons? A memory surfaced, one he had never recalled before. A forest. His own pale face filled with terror because he see his father and blood dripping from his mouth, barely clinging to life. His father's was being devoured by a mysterious and terrific demon. Panic attack incoming. But before he could spiral, his Giga Chad mother snapped him back to reality, asking why he looked so pale. Yeah, working for the government really was exhausting. Still feeling shaky, he reassured her he was fine and left for work. The moment he stepped in, his colleague called out, "Officer Maruhan." He had been trying to keep a low profile, but now he had no choice but to awkwardly step forward. Joan immediately asked what had happened yesterday and why he had disappeared without a word. Before Maru could say anything, Zanu scoffed. "Isn't it obvious? The coward got scared and ran away." Maru could have explained that he left to save his mother, but instead he just apologized. Then, out of nowhere, Kong Chana, the woman who somehow kept getting more stunning every day, casually spoke up. "He was sick, so I gave him the day off." Maru blinked. Why was she covering for him? She just stared at him, a silent, don't say anything in her gaze. Joan sighed, saying Kang should have informed them about something like that. Kang apologized, but Joan wasn't letting it slide. You can't just say sorry after messing up like this. Before the argument could escalate, the alarm blared. Without hesitation, Kang started gearing up, announcing she was heading out to take down a level 2 demon. Then, for some reason, Maru enthusiastically shouted, "I'm going too!" The room fell silent. A while later, they were hiking up the mountain. Maru, already sweating and out of breath, took the chance to apologize for making Kang take the blame for his mistake. She shrugged it off, saying she knew he had left because she had been too harsh on him, so it was fine. Then she asked, "But why did you come back?" Maru, gasping for air, managed to answer, "He was here to fight." Right at that moment, the ground rumbled. Golden dust rose into the air. A massive, obese figure appeared in the distance. The monster charged straight at them. It was a huge, gray, old man, screaming that he was ready to fight. Kang warned them not to underestimate it. Even though it was only level 2, an entire mountain team had been wiped out by a mere level 5 demon before. Maru knew exactly which one she meant, the one he had beaten yesterday. Yosok, the TikToker, casually commented that those guys were lucky HQ had handled that demon. After all, the main branch only had level 7 and above users, people on a completely different level. Maru froze. Should he say it? Should he tell them he was the one who killed it? The problem was he had left early yesterday and explaining everything would be a pain, but he wanted recognition. He wanted them to know he worked hard too. Before Before he could decide, Kang asked, "What is that demon doing?" The creature had its hands under its arms, scratching its armpits. Someone yelled for them to step back, but Maru suddenly stepped forward. "No need, I'll handle this." Kang looked genuinely surprised. "Since when does a level 1 user think they can take on a level 2? Maru pointed at himself. "That level 1 user is me!" Then, with all the confidence in the world, he slicked back his hair. Time to show them how much he had evolved since the last battle. He mimicked the demon's movements, scratching his own armpits. A horrific stench filled the air. The monster sniffed, screamed, and ran away. That was supposed to be its ability. Even Maru was disgusted by what he had just done, but still he rushed in. "I'm not losing to trash like this." He landed solid punches to its stomach, making it stumble. Yosok, meanwhile, covered his nose, saying, "This isn't a fight, it's chemical warfare." Kangchana, who, mind you, was level 7, was barely standing, dizzy from the smell. Maru, completely ignoring how gross he looked, kept flailing his arms in what could only be described as a high-intensity slap battle. The monster wailed, realizing its own ability was working against it. Then Maru did his final move and monster vomited, collapsed, and passed out. Maru turned to the others, smiling. "I won, right?" They did not look impressed. Later, after washing up in the river, Kangchana sat nearby, watching Maru. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "So you really can absorb demon abilities through gluttony?" Maru nodded. The last demon he ate had the ability to reflect attacks. Yosok mocked him. "Oh, so that's what all your dramatic speech was about, that whole build-up for that?" Maru felt a little embarrassed, but Kang just shrugged. "Doesn't matter, you did well." Maru was about to bask in the praise, until she ruined the moment by adding, "But honestly, you're still disgusting for having to eat those things. Humiliating." As the others left to check for more demons, Maru sat there, wondering, why did I have to get stuck with that monster? Why can't I ever look cool? Then, someone appeared behind him. "Are you Maru-han?" Maru froze, covered his face. "Who's asking?" It was Jang, and he only had one question. "Did you kill the level 5 demon on the mountain?" Considering Maru was supposed to be a mere level 1, this was an extremely strange thing to ask. Maru, feeling awkward, answered, "Yes." Jang smiled. "I'm here to take you to HQ in Seoul." Maru blinked. "Wait, is this a promotion?" Jang, still smiling like a main character, replied, "Because I recognize talent when I see it." Petition for the artist to stop wasting time drawing this guy and focus on the characters we actually care about. Maru, still surprised which potential he is talking about. Back at headquarters, Yang was questioning the director about the delayed meeting, and the director explained that a new recruit had caught his attention. Immediately, Yang asked if the director was talking about his son, the kid named Seon-woo. The director clarified that the kid hadn't spoken to him since the divorce, and that the person who intrigued him wasn't his son at all, but another new recruit. Yang raised an eyebrow and asked if the sudden appearance of high-level demons might be related to this new recruit, and the director nodded, saying, "I have a feeling, keep an eye on Ganghwa Island." The scene then shifted to another portal filled with golden dust, and inside what looked like a house, a small twisted creature crouched in the shadows, a sickly mutated gremlin. Back at the Ganghwa task force office, Maru was grinning like an idiot, absolutely thrilled to have been invited to work at headquarters, thinking it was huge, until reality hit him that if they were calling him there, it must be even more dangerous than where he was. So he had to remember safety first, even in a beautifully peaceful workplace, while still feeling damn good to be recognized by someone at the very top. Then, Seon-woo was staring at him from across the room, asking, "Why have you been walking around with that stupid smile all day?" It was obvious how much that arrogant guy hated seeing a level 1 weakling enjoying an easy life, so Maru fired back, "You're the incompetent one. If you want to work at HQ, you're not there, so you don't have the right to say anything," which made Seon-woo's face darken as he stood up fuming and retorted, "Say that again. Like hell I'm gonna sit here and take moral lectures from someone who has the ability of stinky armpits." Maru froze and demanded, "Who the hell leaked that information?" As he glanced around, noticing Yosok typing away at his computer pretending to be busy. Instantly, Maru knew it was that bastard, and feeling the rage of 1,000 suns, he lunged at Yosok, who instantly ran for his life, while meanwhile Dyokman laughed his ass off and Yun told everyone to stop bullying Maru. Maru sighed in relief, saying to Jan, "You really are a good person," and she clapped her hands and said, "At least you're not hiding in the bathroom anymore. Now you just stink a little. That's progress." Which made Maru feel as if his Soul was leaving his body from embarrassment. To make matters worse, he resented how Kang remained indifferent to everything, even after he had helped her that day, still seeing him as useless. He then looked down at Jang's contact information, remembering that Jang had told him to send a message once he made a decision. At that moment, Kang stood up and announced that a level 2 creature had appeared, and immediately Sion Wu grabbed her arm and said, "I'm going this time," because he was bored out of his mind in that office and felt like he was about to explode if he stayed any longer. Then he turned to Maru and declared, "You're coming too. We need to work on team bonding," as the two of them began. Climbing the mountain under the brutal sun, sweating profusely. When it came to hunting monsters, Sion Wu was more excited than ever, while Maru, on the other hand, didn't want to spend another second next to that psychopath, wanting nothing more than to finish the job and go home and call the director. Then, Sion Wu paused and remarked, "This won't be as easy as you think," and Maru followed his gaze to see the entire house ahead covered in golden dust. And Maru figured, there must be more than one person inside, but Sion Wu ignored him, walked ahead and ordered them to hurry up as the gate creaked open. Maru hesitated at the threshold because something felt off inside the door. There was way too much golden dust, enough to indicate a level 4 or higher creature. Nevertheless, they walked in and Maru muttered that they should turn back since these things could appear out of nowhere. But Sion Wu kept moving forward until they reached a green door. Seon Wu was convinced that the monster lurked right behind it, and when Seon Wu turned the handle, the door remained locked. Maru stepped in front and warned, "This is dangerous. We don't know what's inside." But Seon Wu had already donned his gloves, saying, "If you don't want to open it, I'll just break it," as he twisted his pinky to try to unlock it, startling everyone when nothing happened and leaving him confused, while Maru told him to stop acting all confident when he couldn't even open a lock. Then Seon Wu went to check the keyhole at the back of the room where a scrawny little devil was barely visible in the corner. The protagonist pushed him aside, saying he wanted to take a look too, and upon inspecting, he remarked that the thing looked weak, but the guy warned that judging by the amount of dust, this creature was at least level 7 or higher. Frightened, our boy asked why something that strong was on the island, and Seon Wu replied he had no idea, but now understood why his heart had been racing for so long. He had been eager to fight a truly strong monster. With that, our boy already took off running, saying that Lunik was going to put both their lives at risk, so it was better to call headquarters right away. However, when he turned the lock, it wouldn't budge, and he began slamming his shoulder against it, demanding to know why they couldn't leave the way they came in, until he realized that it must be the work of the demon hiding in the room. Meanwhile, Xiao was kicking and punching, trying to force the door open while shouting at the damn recluse to come out and fight. But Maru didn't want to spend a single second against that demon, much less against that psychopath, especially knowing that as a level 7 hermit Nahal, the blackhead was simply standing there and then suddenly started repeating, "Hermit, hermit," as his face began to distort. When Seon Wu looked at his fingers, he noticed that his entire hand was already broken, yet the door hadn't even a scratch on it, leaving him to wonder what the creature was made of. At the same time, Maru slammed a chair against the window, but that didn't work either, and it seemed that the hermit Nahal's power was creating a trap house. His heart started to tighten as a panic attack set in, and he wondered if anyone from the office was going to arrive soon. 2 hours later, furious and unsure if those bastards had simply forgotten about them, scene shifted to office where Dokman yelled that they had a problem, and Yun looked around and said they'd really forgotten about the training date in Busan, prompting everyone to scramble through files and work on sorting things out. Kang Chana slammed the keyboard, got up, ran, grabbed the file, and handed it over to the guy, who thanked everyone for their hard work and said he'd see them tomorrow. Yun then sat on the couch and suggested that after all that hard work, they should enjoy a nice cup of coffee and some peace, and everyone relaxed for a brief moment, until Yun wondered where those two had been for the past 3 hours. He then exclaimed, "This is exactly why you shouldn't send a rookie alone," and start rushing towards the location, telling Kang Chana and another guy to stay there, but Kang Chana got up to say she was going too because she had a bad feeling. She walked past Yun, who stared at her, and warned that the place was dangerously close to that other place, but the girl, who seemed to be carrying some trauma, simply said, "Hurry up and start going. If I had to bet $1 trillion, I'd say her family was killed by demons, and that's why she's so determined to kill them." The scene then shifted to the house where everyone inside was already asking where the two had gone. Through the swirling dust, they saw a shadow approaching as desperate fools shouted at them not to let the door close. But it was too late, and the door slammed right in their faces, leaving the fools wondering why they had barged in like that as they slumped on the floor. Yun asked asked what had happened, and after the situation was explained, they all stood by the door, realizing that the demon didn't want to leave. That's when Kang told everyone to step back and formed a katana before slashing at the door, but obviously nothing happened. Yosak was terrified that even his attack didn't work, so Yoon instructed everyone to wait because she would handle it. She then pulled up her jacket sleeve to reveal a small black orb on her arm from which a tiny spider emerged. Her ability of Spider Nakhaled Demon Spider, and she told Minnie to go in, but the lock was too small for her chubby spider and it failed, while our boy watched her, consoling the spider and remarking that she seemed like the weirdest one so far. Then Seon-woo told Yosak to do something instead of just standing there, but he replied that he had no abilities, and Maru took the opportunity to mock him, saying that he seemed completely useless in battle. However, the boy fired back that our guy was the useless one, or were all those abilities he'd been absorbing just for nothing, questioning why he didn't use the mirror power to unlock everything. At that moment, our protagonist explained that the creature was too far away, he couldn't see clearly, and his powers didn't reach that far, making it seem like everyone was completely useless. Seon-woo then asked who was going to save them if there was no one else in the office. Yoon replied that the leader wouldn't be coming because he had left for training and wouldn't return until tomorrow, and Yosak reminded them that they still had Kim back in the office. Suddenly, the old bespectacled man appeared, scaring everyone, and when asked when he got there, he replied that he arrived because no one had come back yet. Everyone was shaken by the fact that this weird guy had absolutely no presence, making it impossible to notice his arrival. He walked up to the lock to take a look, and when Yun asked if he could handle it, he suddenly lied down on the floor and started taking a nap. Maru thought to himself that either this guy was extremely calm or had some bizarre ability, while Yun explained that she had no idea what his ability was because she'd never seen him use it. Everyone who had come to save them so far had been useless. Yun then clapped her hands and told them to focus and find a way out together, but Seon-woo reminded her that they'd already tried everything, so there was no way out, and asked if she was prepared to die without doing anything. Yosak suggested waiting for the leader because Demon is not attacking us, while our boy bit his nails in fear, and in the background he wondered why Kang was just standing or doing nothing, as something about that was weird. Yosak, however, wanted to understand why the demon wasn't moving or trying to attack them, and then, out of nowhere, a tremor shook everyone as Kang immediately ran off, shouting that it came from the main room. She opened the door and saw that the entire room was moving, with the walls and ceiling coming down as the house itself seemed to be shrinking. That's when Seon-woo stated that the purpose of that hermit Rakshasa was obvious. It would keep shrinking the space until the house was reduced to just around itself. Since they couldn't destroy the walls, they were going to be crushed to death if they didn't find a solution soon. Maru got filled with fear. What we will do now? Suddenly, a flashback emerged. 4 years ago, a woman were gathering plants with a girl. Kang arrived, greeting them cheerfully with a hi. Shortly before, what might have been her brother ran up to hug him. A happy family in the middle of the mountains, obviously a memory that would not end well. The two were clearly very close and often talked about growing up together with their grandma. Kang remembered a drawing on the wall. Ellen told her brother to stop or he'd get scolded, but her brother insisted it was their happy family portrait, the very drawing on the wall that was now shrinking in present time. It was in the house she grew up in. At that moment, she activated her power and pulled out a massive sword and slashed at the wall using her full strength, but the place kept shrinking and her sword started to crack. She realized she had to use more blood, and things got serious, and she's starting to cover by her demon ability, her neck already turning gray. Yun shouted for her to stop because it was dangerous, and that's when Maru ran in and yanked her out. Breaking the sword, she looked devastated and cried as she watched everything disappear, but just in time, Maru managed to pull her out of that room. The girl, however, seemed to have fainted, and Yun tried to wake her up. Our protagonist already knew she had fainted from using too much blood, though he couldn't understand why she had gone that far just for a wall. Then Yun revealed that this house belonged to Kang's grandmother, who had lost both her grandma and younger brother by a demon while living there, and had barely survived on her own by absorbing Demon's ability, which was how she gained her abilities. Maru now understood why she acted that way and seemed so scared. Yosak said that at least for now the house had stopped shrinking, but they would have to find a way out soon before they ran out of room, as shown by the small piece Kang had torn from the wall. Young then declared slow and steady wins the race, and sometime later the sounds of attacks echoed through the forest, while Xiangwu managed to carve out a tiny hole kill with his knife and a billion strikes, though everyone had already used up all their energy and couldn't do anything else. A knife then fell on Maru's lap, and Seonwoo said it was his turn, getting up with his arm still in bad shape from his first effort. But just as he was about to begin, Kang snatched the knife from his hand and said she would do it herself. He asked her to rest a little longer, but Kang insisted she was fine. She went to the wall and began scraping it, and one of the boys commented that he had heard this was her grandmother's house and found it strange that such an abandoned place was so clean, so she must have been taking care of it. She explained it was because she had been waiting for the day the demon that killed her family would return, and Maru didn't understand how she knew the creature would come back one day. She then explained that the demon from that time was completely different. A creature with a feminine silhouette emerged from the gate that very moment, scaring her so much that she couldn't move. When she looked to the side, another one was approaching. This one had a masculine build with eyes and a focused look and intelligence, as if it had a purpose beyond simple killing. She mentioned that if the prophecy came true, that creature would appear again, and now Maru understood why she was part of this island's team despite being a level 7 user. She asked if he was disappointed that her reason was something cliched, but Maru replied that, no, it is Enos better than mine. I'm here because he couldn't escape and because the salary was good. She continued hitting the wall, saying that if that was the case, soon enough he'd be in Seoul since the salary there was even better. And when he asked how she knew, she explained that she had seen Jang talking to him that day. Just as she was about to explain why she was sure he'd do a great job, suddenly the whole place started moving again as everyone screamed for them to head for the hallway and escape the area. Everybody started to run. During the chaos, Maru was curious about what she was going to say. The next morning, the house had already shrunk to half its original size. Everyone was exhausted, worn down by endless stress, wondering when this nightmare would end. Yosok said their only chance of survival now was the leader, but when is he coming? While the others were struggling to hold on, Kim Yak was still peacefully asleep, as if none of it concerned him. Maru, already fed up, pointed out how unfair it was that everyone was doing their best to escape while that guy wasn't even awake yet. But that's when everything started shaking again. Maru quickly said they needed to move Kim Yak from the hallway, but when they looked at him, he was already standing up, covered in fungus, looking like some kind of ghost. Everyone was shocked and asked what was going on with him. Kim Yak calmly said that now was the perfect time. Suddenly, the door burst open and the demon came dashing out, desperate and also covered in mold. Everyone turned to Kim Yak, yelling at him and demanding to know what he did. He simply explained that he had infected the demon with a mold fungus through to keyhole, but it took a long time to spread, and just like that, the atmosphere shifted. Everyone began clapping and praising him, calling him a genius for pulling that off. He looked a little embarrassed, but Seonwoo and Kang quickly brought everyone back to reality, reminding them they hadn't won yet. The demon was standing there in front of them, crying, until suddenly something started emerging from its back. A swarm of creepy creatures staring at them like predators. Turns out, the hermit demon wasn't so alone after all. That's when Maru realized the real danger had just begun. All the smaller demons leaped toward them at once. A strange red thread extended from the main demon's back. Kang ordered Yosok to hide everyone quickly and then activate his zero presence ability, which practically made him invisible. She moved through the swarm, slicing up demons one by one, but the narrow hallway made things tough. Her sword kept getting stuck in the walls. As soon as that happened, one of the creatures started crawling along her blade, coming straight for her. Just when it seemed like she'd get hit, Maru rushed in and bit the creature's neck as he was being overwhelmed and devoured. He still managed to stretch his hand upward and clenched it hard. The ceiling started to lower. The Yosok freaked out, shouting that they were all going to die, but Maru shouted back, "No," and revealed the true power of his mirror ability. With it, he forced the ceiling to stop. His friends cheered him on, calling him incredible, but the monsters kept swarming. Then one of the demon's heads exploded. Seonwoo had broken a pinky finger and landed a surprise attack. He told Maru to stay hidden behind the barrier since he was still technically a level 1 user. Maru wanted to warn him, but it was already too late. Seonwoo was bitten on the shoulder, arm, and stomach. A bunch of creatures swarmed him. Suddenly something massive and white stabbed through the demons. It was Yun's little spider, now transformed into a giant beast. She stood still, eyes closed, clearly controlling the creature. Meanwhile, Kang and Seonwoo were cutting through the monsters like professionals. Inside the barrier, Maru and Yosok exchanged glances, teasing each other while also praising their friends, admitting they really were trying their best out there, even if they looked dumb doing it. At the same time, Yoon wondered why the monsters were endlessly pouring out of that cursed room. The moment Maru heard that, he sprinted off, yelling that he'd take care of it. Kang and Simu cleared a path for him, and he dove through the chaos, falling into the heart of the house. Behind all the creatures, the real demon was crouched, unharmed. That's when Maru realized the truth. This bastard hadn't even been fighting. He was just sending out clones. Every time one of the heads got hit, a new one was born. So Maru raised his arms and decided, if that's the case, then fine, he'd bring the ceiling down on it. He triggered his mirror ability to crush the whole room, but the ceiling started dropping way too fast. He tried to run, but couldn't make it in time. Fortunately, his friends reached out and Seon-woo pulled him to safety just in time. Outside, everyone celebrated. They cheered for Maru's mirror ability, calling it amazing. Kang, however, was quiet, thinking back to a memory with her grandmother, mother, and brother in that same house. Maru noticed and gently deactivated his power. No need to keep it running now that the monster was gone. He walked up to the demon's corpse and began devouring it. The others were confused about what he was doing, but Maru had already eaten many monsters before. He knew how important it was to absorb powers quickly, while the golden dust was still in the air. With that, he gained another ability and started pushing the walls back to restore the house. But using that power consumed too much golden dust, and eventually he couldn't move the walls anymore. Kang grabbed his arm, told him it was okay, and thanked him. What he did was enough. The drawing on the wall had reappeared. That meant they succeeded. Back at the office, Dokman came in all happy and excited, saying something good was happening today. He even brought the best bread from Busan. But when he walked in, the place was completely empty. He checked the break room, thinking maybe those brats were still knocked out from the fight. That's when he got a call from Jang, who informed him that Maru was called to join headquarters, but refused. Dokman looked over and saw the girls sleeping peacefully, looking beautiful. Meanwhile, Maru was there too, sweaty, stinky, tired, but adjusting to life with the team little by little. Then suddenly the next scene cut to Maru being completely torn in many pieces, someone screaming at him to run. But hold up, we're jumping back 7 hours. Classic spoiler. Earlier that day, Maru was dying from lack of sleep. He complained about how hard it was to earn money like this. While walking to work, a fancy Porsche drove by, and of course it was Seon-woo, the filthy rich bastard. Maru remembered how he saved his life and shamelessly tried to ask for a ride, but Seon-woo just sped off. The Yosok appeared, jealous as ever, saying it was weird for a government worker to drive something like that. Maru agreed and said Seon-woo's just a weird guy. Then Yosok chimed in, saying it didn't matter how rich, tall, or handsome he was, Seon-woo had a trash personality and probably didn't have any friends. The two laughed, but Maru started thinking about how he didn't have any of those things either. No money, no friends, so he was just losing all around. When they got to the office, Dokman opened his arms and praised Maru as an amazing level 7 ability user. Maru pushed him away, totally confused. Yoon explained that since he had devoured a level 7 demon, he now had level 7 powers. Then Leader patted him on the back, saying they always thought he was dead weight, but now he was finally good for something. Maru blushed, surprised by how good it felt to be recognized. Yoseok added that Maru's talent was incredible. He might be the first person who could keep growing like this. Suddenly, Seon-woo slammed the table, saying the workday had started and everyone needed to shut up. Maru could tell this guy hated him, probably because he'd embarrassed him back when he was level 1. Now he had to deal with the guy's resentment. Then Miss Gorgeous tapped him on the shoulder and asked to talk privately. Outside on a bench, she thanked him for what he did at her grandmother's house. Maru awkwardly said it was only natural, they were a team, but then she looked at him and said, "When I saw you, I felt." Maru blushed hard, thinking she was going to confess something romantic, but nope. She was just suspicious that he wasn't a level 1 user because his ability to devour demons is extraordinary. He remembered the first chubby demon he bit and was sure that one was level 1. Then Kong asked if he saw any demons before he started working at the comp. Any. Maru thought hard. He'd never forget something like that, right? But then he noticed smoke behind her and suddenly had a panic attack. A black claw appeared. A wolf-like humanoid stared at him, drooling. His heart pounded and he dropped his drink. She asked what was wrong and he tried to brush it off, saying sometimes his mind just makes up scary stuff. But she called his bluff, grabbed his hand and told him not to worry. He was safe with her around. God, I wish I was safe too. She was now certain there was something in his past. Then Dokman walked in, teasing them about their little office date. Maru, flustered, denied everything. Kang casually said relationships didn't make sense since the world would end in a year anyway, so I have zero interest. forest. Her words hit harder than any level 10 demon. Maru just collapsed on the bench, emotionally KO'd. Deokman laughed at him while Maru tried to defend himself, but inside, he did feel genuinely sad. Sometime later, Yun said they should check alerts before leaving. Meanwhile, Kang and Maru were climbing the mountains together. Ever since the bench conversation, it felt awkward between them. She reached the meter and started taking notes on the golden dust while Maru stood back, convincing himself there's no time for love when the world might end in a year. Both of them were deep in thought, focused on how to stop these demons once and for all. But for this, we have to communicate with the demons. But then the phone rang. It was a distress call from Zone 3. Yosek's voice came through, reporting that leader Dokman had already been defeated, and the worst part, the creature was still alive and heading towards them. He warns them to be careful with their words, but the line abruptly cuts off, leaving everyone on edge. Kang is visibly alarmed, pointing out how serious this is. Dokman was a level 10 ability user, and even he was no match. Maru, on the other hand, is stunned, not by the situation, but because he had no idea that Lazy Guy was a level 10 user to begin with. As they speak, golden dust begins to appear in the air, and Kang warns him to be extremely cautious. The demon approaching them is unlike any they've faced before because he is strong enough to take down a level 10 ability user. Then, through the mist, a thin kimono-wearing creature makes its appearance. With a single blink of its eye, it stuns both Maru and Kang. The creature calmly greets them, saying it's a pleasure to meet humans and requests a conversation, specifically with the one in charge. Maru is completely thrown off. This demon not only talks, but speaks just like a human. Kang urges him to stay alert, its language Rakshasa, but the demon continues, claiming it doesn't want to fight and is here only to talk. Maru, curious despite the warning from Yosek to avoid any conversation, decides to proceed anyway, thinking it might be a good opportunity to gain intel. He asks the demon where it's from, and the creature responds, Abyss. Maru has no clue where that is, so the demon explains that it's the deepest part of hell, a place of eternal darkness where sinners are imprisoned and forced to fight endlessly. Slowly, Maru begins to put the pieces together. The demon confirms every single demon here was once human. This realization hits him like a truck. He remembers all the times he's consumed demon meat, which now means he's been eating people. Sickened, he starts vomiting. The demon, unfazed, says it's its turn to ask a question. Maru hesitates, frozen, but Kang grabs his arm and urges him to stop talking. Despite the demon's peaceful tone, she's sure this is the same one that defeated Deckman. She prepares a massive spear, but the demon gently tells her to put it down, saying it dislikes violence. She doesn't hesitate and rush towards the demon with the spear, but in an instant the demon casually redirects it with a finger, and it then tells her coldly that her brother's death was her fault for being too weak to protect him. A traumatic memory hits her brother shielding her with his body, taking the fatal blow, telling her to run before collapsing in her arms. She had sobbed uncontrollably. Now, standing in front of the creature that somehow knows all of this, she's paralyzed. The demon accuses her again, saying it was her job as the older brother to protect her brother. Maru catches her as she falls, but then realizes, where did all this blood come from? He hadn't even noticed anything happening. The demon clearly possesses some kind of psychological attack, and Maru knows he's screwed. He has the weakest mental state out of all of them. The demon turns its attention to Maru again, saying they can continue talking and leave Kang out of it. But Maru yells back, ordering the monster to shut its filthy mouth. He launches himself forward and smashes the demon into a rock with a powerful punch. Maru jumps on the demon. The demon chuckles, wiping blood off its mouth, and mocks him, asking why he's so angry when he was just rejected by the girl. Maru freezes. And got hit on heart. That's not right. I have never been rejected. So why does that comment hurt so much? He tries to rationalize it. He has no romantic feelings for her. She's just a strong, respectable senior. But as he looks at her, who is still collapsed and traumatized by her past memories, the pain in his chest worsens. He coughs up blood. The demon moves closer, picking up a rock, saying it despises emotions. Emotions are for the weak. Even back when it was human, it never felt anything. It sneers at Maru's silence, asking if a cat got his tongue. Now Maru understands. This is how even someone as strong as Dyukman lost. The demon tosses the rock high into the air, preparing to end Maru's life right then. As the rock comes down, Maru braces himself, thinking, unless someone completely emotionless appears, he's done for. Suddenly, the demon jerks violently. It's been hit. The emotion emotionless bastard finally arrives. Xianwu appears, cold and unimpressed, demanding to know why a level 1 like Maru is lying on the ground. Maru, bloody and weak, grins. He's never been so happy to see a sociopath, but Xianwu is already annoyed, asking why Maru is smiling like a fool. The demon murmurs, intrigued. That one actually ticked up a little. Xianwu, surprised to see Demon still alive, it adjusts its dislocated jaw and says breaking its vocal cords won't be easy, especially for such weaklings. Our both boys started to get annoyed. It continues taunting, but now both Maru and Xianwu are ready to destroy this loudmouth. Maru warns him this demon uses psychological attacks, but Xianwu dismisses him and prepares to show how it's done, which annoy Maru as always. As Xianwu starts cracking his fingers, each snap shatters a part of the demon's body. It mocks him, saying this won't be enough to earn his father's approval, but Xianwu remains unfazed, emotionless. The demon continues, revealing Xianwu's dark past. His mother took her own life after being abandoned by his father, and he was left behind. Maru had no idea about any of this. He assumed Xianwu was just some spoiled brat. Even someone as cold as Xianwu shouldn't be able to handle such trauma. Yet he just laughs. He says it's not his fault. His mother was just weak. He then attacks the demon's throat, declaring that only the strong survive. The demon retorts that if that's true, Xianwu won't last long. He's weaker than Maru. That jab hits its mark. Xianwu falters, clearly affected, but Maru jumps in and blocks the next strike. He says he's figured it out. The demon disorients with psychological attacks, then fires a blade from its mouth. Just then, Kang swoops in and slices the demon's tongue, causing it to shriek in pain. She checks on Maru, and he's struck again by how amazing she is. Damn, he's falling for her even more. But he snaps out of it, reminding himself to focus on the fight. He grabs Sanwoo and tries to shake him out of his daze. That comment about being weaker than Maru had really hit him hard. Meanwhile, Maru is weirdly proud. Someone like Sanwoo being jealous of him? He steps on Sanwoo and tells him to get over it. Being weaker than him isn't the end of the world. He might be lame, but right now, Sanwoo is even cooler than him. Sanwoo finally snaps out of it, scoffing and saying, obviously, you're still a trash level 1. The three of them face the monster, knowing they have to finish this before nightfall. Maru is worried if he gets too close, the demon might use its tongue again, but Kang says this is their best shot. Without its tongue, it can't use its strongest weapon. Xianwu argues that Kang is in no condition to fight. Her wound is still open, and it seems like demons attack do not heals. Maru makes a move. He bolts to the side, waving and shouting at the demon, calling it an idiot, trying to bait it. But the creature turns, exactly what Maru wanted. He yells for Xianwu to protect Kang while he uses his power, but Xianwu is confused. Maru's power only works in enclosed spaces. Kang freaks out and tells Xianwu to help before Maru gets himself killed. Maru sprints, the demon chasing after him with its flailing tongue. He desperately searches for an enclosed space but finds nothing but open fields. Then a car screeches to a halt beside him. It's Seonwoo. He tells Maru to get in. Without hesitation, Maru leaps through the sunroof, complaining about the rich kid risking his expensive ride. The demon lunges, aiming an attack at the vehicle, but this was part of the plan. The car becomes the enclosed space. Maru opens the door, baiting the demon inside. Seonwoo traps it, locking it in, and Maru escapes from car in an instant. It seems like they've done it, but just like at the start, the scene replays. Maru is suddenly sliced into 36 pieces. The demon crawls out of the wreckage, grinning, thinking it's won. But then a hand appears, grabs its neck. He was Maru. The creature looked back at Maru and understood something, and that's when the truth of what really happened was revealed. The moment Maru got into the car, he had already activated his clone ability. Multiple versions of Maru appeared and launched a coordinated attack on the monster, grabbing it from all sides and dragging it back into the car. As they overwhelmed it, they began devouring it alive. The monster screeched in agony, flailing, desperately trying to find the real Maru, who had hidden himself in the back seat. Outside, Xianwu was banging on the window, yelling for the bastard to come out, clueless to what was happening inside. Kang arrived, asking where Maru was, only to hear the monster cry out that all of this wasn't necessary. It pleaded for a conversation instead of a fight and said, Maru, really this? Naturally violent, just like his father? And right there, a psychological attack hit. Maru was suddenly thrown into a traumatic memory. Tears welled up in his eyes as his father grabbed him by the collar and screamed at him to stop. Stop what exactly? The monster's voice echoed in his mind, asking how it felt when his father disappeared without a word. Maru couldn't take it anymore. He slammed his hands over his ears so hard that blood started gushing out. He shouted back, telling the monster to quit playing with people's emotions. The creature kept trying to mouth words to him, hoping he'd lip read, but Maru refused. He snarled that if he couldn't hear it, the attack meant nothing. He clenched his fist, and the ceiling began collapsing. Outside the car, Kang tried to stop what was happening, but Xianwu grabbed her and told her there was nothing they could do. The vehicle kept shaking violently. Inside, Maru had turned into a blood-red puddle. At that moment, Kang noticed something. The golden dust in the air was vanishing. As the car lay flattened, she stepped forward and insisted they had to save him. Xianwu, thinking it was pointless, said the kid had been dead for a while, but Kang didn't give up. She declared that as long as even a little golden dust remained, there was still hope. She tore apart pieces of the car with her bare hands, yelling at Maru, demanding to know why he crushed himself like that. That's when they heard someone knocking from inside the wreckage. Sionwoo immediately jumped in to help, also baffled about why Maru would do such a thing. Meanwhile, Maru found himself in a place far removed from reality. He couldn't feel his body and had no idea where he was, but he hoped he at least managed to take down that loudmouth monster. He tried recalling the creature's final mouth movements, something about how the abyss is looking for you and that he needed to remember the call. As he began to lose consciousness again, he thought, what the hell is this call? Suddenly the monster screamed at him to wake up. His eyes snapped open and he found himself in a red, warped space. His clothes began moving on their own, and then, horrifyingly, hands emerged from his stomach. The same black werewolf-like demon began crawling out of him. Shocked and broken, Maru demanded to know what that thing was. The monster calmly asked, "Don't you remember?" Flashback. A young Maru, terrified, was with his father when they first encountered the creature. The monster had locked eyes with both of them. Little Maru, sensing danger, told his father something was wrong and that they should run. But his father grabbed him roughly and said, "No, from now on he is gonna fight it." Maru begged for a reason, tears streaming down his face. That's when his father revealed their true motive: to obtain that monster's unique power. That the only way to get to the abyss. He dragged his crying son forward, and then, shockingly, he threw Maru directly in front of the beast. The monster raised its head, and it looked like it was going to devour him. Back in the present, Sionwoo was literally breaking his fingers while trying to rip apart what little was left of the car. He was using the last remnants of golden dust to dig deep, and finally, at the very bottom, he found Maru. His body was blood-soaked, tightly wrapped like a vacuum-sealed corpse. Sionwoo solemnly said the dust was gone. Maru couldn't be saved. But Kang grabbed Maru's hand anyway, begging him to respond, and that's when his finger twitched. They stared in disbelief. Somehow, Maru was generating golden dust on his own, just like a demon. His broken bones began twisting, spinning, healing. He stood up, almost fully recovered, leaving Kang and Sonwoo horrified. But just moments later, he collapsed again, unconscious. Sionwoo, confused and furious, started stomping on him, yelling, demanding to know what the hell he was. Maru could barely speak, groaning in pain. Sionwoo grabbed him by the collar and screamed, how the hell was he producing golden dust when the only ability he had was gluttony? That's when it hit Maru like a freight train. Gluttony wasn't the first power he'd ever had. It was that monster's power, the one his father forced him to absorb as a child. And even now, he had no idea why. He collapsed again, overwhelmed by the realization, having a full-blown panic attack. Kang stepped in, telling Seonwoo to back off. Maru was still recovering and didn't even realize he was producing golden dust. She suggested they keep it secret between the three of them, but Seonwoo refused. He argued that keeping quiet about a monster like Maru was dangerous. Headquarters needed to know. Kang countered that Maru didn't even seem aware of what he was, and she believed in him. She was sure he wouldn't become dangerous. Seonwoo scoffed, said he didn't care anymore, and walked off. That's when Kang realized the full weight of the situation had now fallen on her shoulders. On the train home, Maru was feeling drained, emotionally and physically, still trying to figure out what the hell this gluttony power was, and more importantly, what that monster really was. Is he becoming like it? Out of nowhere, the monster appeared in his reflection, watching him from the train window. Maru jolted in fear. Sitting next to him was Yosak, who asked him to stop acting like a freak. Maru held his chest, saying he saw something strange, and asked if Yosak wanted to hear about his problems. Without missing a beat, beat, Yosuke told him no, he didn't care one bit. It was better if they just stayed out of each other's lives. Maru sank back, dejected. No one in that office cared about him. Meanwhile, the Yosuke from earlier got a call from a guy named Wooju. He asked why something had happened. Cut to another scene. Wooju was asking someone to leave the Gyeong Mountain team and file for a transfer. A chubby guy sitting with them hesitated but finally agreed. Then, curiously, he asked who the person next to was. Turns out it was none other than Han Maru. Even Yosuke was shocked. When did he get invited? He explained he'd been having a hard time in life and didn't want to be alone, and it's his first time to meet member of another civil servant team. He asked Wooju why he wanted to leave that team. Wooju simply said there were too many arguments and conflicts. Yosuke scoffed, saying it wasn't conflict, it was flat-out bullying. Maru, curious, asked if this was that legendary office bullying he'd heard about. The Yosuke laughed, saying Wooju was too nice. He should have just gone wild and stormed out like he did. Maru said, how you know that much? You were in that team too. That's when Wooju revealed something shocking. Yosuke was the one who had been beaten and bullied the most in that team. Maru started getting nervous. What kind of people were they dealing with? Yosuke explained it plainly. Those people are more dangerous than the demons they were assigned to exterminate. And right then, Maru remembered what Sionwoo said, that Maru might one day become more dangerous than a monster. Now, he was left wondering, was he already turning into one of them? On the way back home, Maru was carrying the chubby guy along, who kept asking if they were still far, but before he could answer, they had already arrived. Ruju's parents' noodle shop. Yosuke told Han Maru that we will just leave Wooju to his parents. The moment Yosuke entered in shop, his laid eyes on the gang of guys sitting there. His expression completely changed. Frozen in place, he turned around to escape but crashed into someone else. That's when a 3.98-meter long man appeared, claiming he was looking for Wooju, but instead he found Yosuke too. Without a second thought, the massive man kicked Yosuke in the chest and stomped on his head, shouting that if he was going to transfer out, he should have done it quietly. His biggest mistake? Setting the place on fire before leaving. The brutal stomping continued until Maru grabbed the attacker's arm and told him to stop. The man turned, glaring, and asked, "Who the hell are you?" With glowing eyes, Maru calmly said he worked with Yosuke at the office. The brute laughed, saying he must be from Ganghwa Island, home of idiots and losers. Then, without warning, he smashed Maru in the face, knocking him to the floor, and went back to beating up poor Yosuke. The guy had been beaten worse by humans than that demon back in the haunted house. Maru got up, trying to pretend his nose wasn't bleeding, but the bitter taste of golden dust filled his mouth. The whole place began turning golden as his anger boiled. Meanwhile, the brute kept blaming Yosuke for the months of rehab he'd been forced into, throwing punch after punch. Yosuke was helpless, choking and crying as other Psycho team members stood around watching, muttering they didn't expect him to transfer to Ganghwa Island. Just then, the door swung open. Maru was full of anger. From behind, a massive foot flew in and slammed into the brute's face, smashing his skull into the wall. He collapsed like a rag doll. Everyone turned in shock. It was Sionwoo. Calmly, he said he too was from that weak-ass Ganghwa Island team. Then he approached Maru and warned him. If he kept doing reckless stuff, he'd end up killed by him. Maru quickly shoved the dust away and asked why Sionwoo was even here. He explained he followed Maru from the train just in case trouble happened. Turns out, Kang Chana had also been following Maru secretly, and now she too arrived at the shop. Furious, she stormed in, demanding to know what was going on. She checked on the beaten Yosuke, asking if he was okay. She said, "I don't know why you attacked our team, but we will taking him out of here." But then, the military huntress spoke up, pointing out that her own friend was half dead too, so no one was going anywhere just yet. The nerdy, trembling guy muttered that Yosuke had caused him plenty of trouble too, and he was here to settle the score. Kang scoffed, saying it looked like they all wanted another round of discipline by the headquarters. Huntress said that this time, you will found guilty, Mulehead, the brute from earlier, stood back up, glaring at Sionwoo and growled, "You are not leaving here alive." He charged at Sionwoo, who smirked back, ready for a fight. Maru stood there, overwhelmed, unsure of what to do. He wanted to help, but Kang told him to stay out of it. If he transformed, things could spiral fast. As she walked past, she saw a broom, then she opened her jacket slightly, ready to fight. And now it was Mulehead's turn to get clobbered. A guy stormed in with a chair, yelling, "Today was the day Seon-woo would die." But bam, out of nowhere, a cannon strike smashed into his ribs. It was Kang, armed with nothing but a broom. She disabled the first guy, then slammed the second in the shin. The nerd was rolling in pain, and she warned them to stop before things got worse. And an older man walked in, asking why they were fighting civilians. He'd just stepped out of the bathroom. Kang asked who he was, and he introduced himself as the leader of Gyeang Mountain Team. Kang looked relieved and tried to explain, but damn, if there was a prize for worst villain, this guy won it. Without warning, he punched Kang straight in the face. A moment of silence. Dude, you don't do that. Like, are you asking to die? Even I was ready to jump into the story and destroy this bastard. He even had the guts to say she wasn't a civilian and shouldn't have hit his popol. Then he turned to Yosok, smirked, and said it had been a while. Maru, seeing Kang unconscious and beaten, couldn't take it anymore and started to produce golden dust. Seon-woo tried to stop him, saying it was crazy, but it was too late. Maru charged at the leader. The leader didn't even flinch until Maru punched him straight in the face, blasting his head across the room. Maru stood there, golden dust swirling around him, breathing heavily. Everyone froze. Seon-woo knew immediately things had just gotten so much worse. Maru rushed over to Kang, helping her up. She weakly whispered she had warned him not to use the dust, but Maru apologized. He was just too furious after seeing her get hurt. Meanwhile, the lunatic leader started laughing, also absorbing golden dust. He found it fascinating. A human, not a demon, who could release the... He stepped close to Maru and asked if he wanted to join his team. Maru glared and rejected him on the spot, calling his group worse than demons. The leader shrugged, saying that was a shame, because now he wasn't letting Maru walk away. There was plenty of golden dust, so he suggested they settle this with a fight. Gyeang Mountain Team versus Ganghwa Mountain Team. Since fighting only demons got boring sometimes. The leader, calm as ever, sat down, chewing on something that looked like seaweed, and announced the start of a 3-on-3 battle. If Gu Mountain won, they'd get to keep Yosok. If Ganghwa Mountain won, they'd forget everything about the office incident that Yosok did to them, the demon-powered boy, all of it. After all, if headquarters found out about Maru, he'd be hunted. Kang, not even tried a reasoning with a captain who is more psycho than his team members. Seon-woo wondered aloud why they didn't just take him out directly. Kang said it would cause chaos, people would protect him, and an all-out war would break loose. So the leader framed it as a friendly competition, saying no killing allowed, because apparently killing was for bad people. Jeong-woo and Maru exchanged confused looks, realizing this dude was totally insane. Hypocrite. Jeong-woo put on his gloves and said he'd been waiting to fight a human with powers. Maru called him nuts, but Kang said to just fight for now. They needed time. When asked why, she simply said they'd understand later. But firstly, who wants to go first? Seong-woo stepped forward, and from the other side, a trembling guy took off his glasses. He uses his demon power and explained that Seon-woo's ability allowed him to break his body to fight, and stepped back, letting a 5-meter giant enter the ring. The giant attacked with branch-like structures, screaming that he'd rip Seon-woo apart, but Seon-woo broke a finger, shattered the attack with a casual flick, and asked if that was it. Of course not. The guy's broken body parts were still under his control. With that, he started to trap Seon-woo and transformed him into a coffin, trapping Seon-woo. With no way to move, the enemy raised a fist aiming for Seon-woo's eye, but Seon-woo just grinned, bit down, cracked a tooth, and shattered the entire attack. In a blink, he grabbed the guy's neck and whispered, "Now you're going to learn what it's like to have your vertebra snapped." The dude's legs gave out instantly. Seon-woo told him not to pass out yet. The next move was a neck fracture. The guy was foaming at the mouth when Kang rushed in and warned Seon-woo not to kill him. Round 1 over. The 3-meter brute got wrecked, vomiting on the floor. The moment the last match ended, the leader stepped up and asked if they could proceed to the next fight. Kang, still recovering, admitted that she had overdone it and barely managed to stall for time. But without hesitation, she stepped forward, ready to face the next opponent. The nerd boy studied her carefully, already knowing she had the ability to turn her blood into blades, so he told Hunter Girl to fight because she is perfect match for her. A fight between two attractive girls never had a loser, but things took a wild turn when the opponent ripped out 2 chunks of her own own ribs. Prepping herself for battle, she had bone Rakshasa powers. Kang quickly warned her not to use knives, insisting it was too dangerous, but this new opponent was no ordinary fighter. Bones erupted from her body like an army, and she climbed atop a giant skeletal spider, declaring she didn't care about playing safe. She charged forward like a beast. Kang barely had time to react, forming only a small sword to defend herself before getting rammed straight into ribs by the bone spider. 10 seconds in, Kang was already thinking she couldn't keep up. She slashed back, forcing her opponent to retreat, but the assault continued. Kang tried to land a light cut and get away, but the minor wound turned into a massive pool of blood. The opposing team panicked, shouting for Officer Park. Kang, clearly shaken, apologized, saying she was trying to hold back but still couldn't control her power fully. Despite the chaos, Seonwoo and Maru praised her. She had done her job and bought them precious time, flat 10 seconds low. Embarrassed, she admitted it was her first real fight against a human and she used to kill demons. As the opposing team began to leave, one guy with a strange eye ability stood frozen, stunned by the madness he'd just witnessed. He had heard rumors that Ganghwa Island was full of weaklings, but what he saw was something else entirely. Their leader stayed behind, stating that only Han Maru was left. Kang pointed out that the score was already 2-1, so they'd technically won, but the guy casually revealed that this ridiculous competition had only happened so he could witness Maru's powers firsthand. And of course, his own fight was the most important one. It would be worth 3 points. Kang tried to reject the offer, but the fool himself, Maru, stepped forward and accepted, saying 3 points it is, but he wanted to fight the leader himself. Everyone thought he was insane, but the leader simply smiled. Meanwhile, the trembling nerd activated his ability to check Maru's power. The moment he did, the demon inside his eye stared back, tearing his eye with his claws, and the guy immediately started bleeding. Terrified, he broke into a cold sweat, whispering if that thing was even human. Maru, on the other hand, stood silently. The leader approached Maru, claiming that challenging the judge was cheating. He'd rather send out his best fighter. Then he suddenly dragged out poor Wu, the chubby guy, and threw him into the fight. Wu was confused and scared, asking about his parents. The leader smiled cruelly, saying they were safe at home so long as Wu obeyed. He shoved him forward and told him to fight. Yosuk shouted for the leader to stop, but he was silenced. Then, standing face to face with Wu, Maru noticed something horrifying. The language demon's head loomed behind Wu, whispering all the things Maru could say to break him. From cruel jabs like "you deserve to die" to psychological attacks like "you can't even look her in the eye." He even saw Wu's memories, him crying, seeing others dumping coffee on Yosuk's head, he trying so hard to hold his powers, but without control, words spilled out of Maru's mouth, his powers forming a blade as he said, "Aren't you happy? At least Yosuk died instead of you." He couldn't stop himself. The tongue formed by his power slashed across Wu's heart. Maru tried to help him, but Wu just whispered, "I'm sorry," before exploding into a venomous burst that started melting Maru's body. He had ability of venom, Rakshasa. His flesh burned and his skin melted, suffering from immense pain as Kong called out for him. But the leader warned her not to interfere. The round wasn't over yet. He walked up to Maru as he lay on the ground, organs melting, mocking him. "You might as well surrender," he said, crouching beside him. But Maru, face half burnt, growled back, "I haven't given up yet." The leader smirked, interested, and told him to show his true power. If he attacked the guy on the ground, he would win by the rule. He lunged forward to punch the leader directly, declaring that if he killed him, the game would be over. But just as he reached him, the leader said, "Unfortunately, that's not going to happen." He grabbed his tie and Star Titan whispered a command, "Follow the rules." He repeated it over and over again, and with it, the entire room was suddenly slammed to the ground. Everyone was pinned down by a crushing force. Seon Wu gasped, struggling to breathe. Even Kang was crushed. Yosuk muttered, trying to breathe carefully. This was the leader's ability, gravity. A level 9 gravity Rakshasa ability user who could crush the entire room just by existing, and he increased the room gravity by 8 times. He stood above them all, smiling. "This is such a beautiful sight," he said. Noticing that Maru had somehow recovered, The leader increased the gravity only on him. Maru's ribs snapped like twigs. Leader stated that he must have abilities of a special demon because as much he suffer from pain the dust get thicker, but Maru kept pushing. Remembering the horrific demon that gave him his powers, he started to get up under the intense pressure. He thought about using his language Rakshasa power to break the leader mentally, but there was nothing written on his back, no weaknesses to exploit. The language power didn't even work on him. He is a true psychopath. The leader then casually pulled out a knife, saying he hated being curious and wanted to dissect Maru to understand from where's the dust is coming from, maybe remove his lungs or throat, but his monologue was cut short as Sion-woo, despite the gravity, broke her own finger to regain control. She shouted for Maru to go, then she slashed the leader's arm, leapt into the air, very close to land a perfect strike. But the leader immediately activated 20x gravity, slamming everyone back into the ground, suffering in intense pressure. He told them that their blood will not reach to brain and they will faint. Maru called out to Kang, but the leader grabbed the knife from her hand and declared that no one would interrupt them now. Now it's just me and you. Maru couldn't see a way out. This madman's power grew stronger the more he tortured his victims. Then someone knocked on the door. The leader growled that they were closed, but something blue and sticky began seeping through the floor. Sion-woo touched it, asking what the hell it was. Kang simply smirked and said, "He's finally here." When the match started, she had sent a message to the boss. Now their Hawaiian shirt-wearing savior, Dokman, stood at the door, bleeding from one eye. His ability? The Demon of Darkness. And when something's got darkness in the name, you know it's busted. The dark puddle spread, swallowing everything. Maru felt himself sink into a void. In seconds, all persons sank into darkness, including leader. Maru realized that he couldn't hear, smell, or even feel himself, like he didn't exist. The gravity user tried to comprehend what was happening, but Dokman appeared right behind him and grabbed his throat. Gravity meant nothing here. The man passed out instantly. Dokman then turned to Maru, who was still struggling, and grabbed him by the neck too, knocking him out cold. He calmly pulled 2 eyes from his pocket and popped them back into his sockets. The darkness faded, and they all returned to reality. Dokman muttered that the golden dust had finally stopped. Kang breathed out in relief, saying he had finally arrived, but Dokman wasn't here for small talk. He demanded to know why she and Sion-woo hadn't reported Maru's powers. Kang apologized, but Dokman wasn't having any of it. He was furious as hell. Kang asked that can he deal with the Gyeong team captain, but he said the situation is now out of control. Things were only going to escalate from here. Inside a massive building, everyone's eyes were glued to Maru, who was chained tightly to a chair. He wondered what fate awaited him, sitting in a huge room filled with many chairs, but only 4 people were present. Suddenly, Yu Young spoke up, announcing that from now on he would be in charge of Maru. But Daeokman immediately protested, saying he didn't accept that decision. Maru was surprised, realizing that Daeokman actually held a lot of authority here. Yu Young slammed the table in frustration, accusing Maru of producing yellow dust, which was extremely dangerous because others could see his demonic powers. But Daeokman argued that all this chaos was the fault of that other team full of terrible people, and no one knew that better than Jang. Daeokman insisted that Jang should take responsibility for that psychopath-filled squad. Yu Young warned Daeokman that he was pushing things too far, but Jang simply told her to be quiet. Jang honestly didn't care about the personalities of the people working under him, whether they were from Gyeong Mountain, treated by a lunatic. As long as they fought demons, it didn't matter. In fact, those lunatics were better than the Ganghwa island leader, who had a level 10 ability but hated fighting. Dokman accepted the criticism and said them the same shoe apply to Maru because his is essential to fight against demons, and his Atter is fine not like that psychopath. Plus, his 2 close friends were the ones best suited to keep his personality in check. Dok then asked if Daeokman would take full responsibility if Maru ever caused a disaster. Without hesitation, Daeokman stood up, said yes, and headed toward the door. As everyone left, Jong called out, telling Shanwoo to stay behind. Looked like the poor guy was about to get a serious father-son talk. Outside, Maru asked how it went and even grumbled about Deokmun's ridiculous Hawaiian tie. Deokmun simply told them that they would be receiving disciplinary actions for 3 months and salary cuts. Maru's heart sank. His brief fun was officially over. He cried dramatically, but Deokmun warned him that he was lucky this time because of the other island's screw-up. If Maru made another mistake like this, there would be no saving him. Deokmun mentioned that Director Jang was terrifying more than even looks, and Maru shivered just thinking about it. Meanwhile, inside, Jang asked Shanwoo if he could kill Maru if he ever lost control. Shanwoo hesitated, turned his head awkwardly, and said no. He stood up and declared that if that was all Jang had to say after 20 years, he was leaving. But Jang ordered him to sit down. This wasn't a conversation between a father and son, it was a command from the director. Han Maru wasn't an ordinary ability user anymore. Someone who could produce yellow dust was practically a demon. They had to be careful. Maybe Maru was the real enemy. That's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Sure Recaps for more epic manhwa recaps. See you in the next part. You're watching Sure Recaps. Signing off.